You are now listening to Surprise Bratva Daddy by Bella King.
Chapter 1. Monroe. I got a package today. It's wrapped in unassuming brown paper, but it's anything but normal. Despite being 7 by 7 by 7 inches, it barely weighs anything. When I shake it, there's no noise but the crinkle of the paper. I can think of no one who would mail me an empty package as a prank. I have no friends, no family, and currently no employer. I'm a loner, a woman without a purpose or mission, getting by on an inheritance that's enough to retire on, but not enough to do anything particularly enjoyable with all my spare time. I don't even date because there aren't any single men my age in this neighborhood. It's quiet here, boring for some people, but I enjoy the silence. I needed stillness after losing my parents to a drunk driver. 5 years later, and the package currently sitting on my table is the most interesting thing that's happened to me. I don't even know who it's from because there's no label on it. No stamps either, which is even more unusual. No sender and no receiver. Not even an address, it's just blank. Maybe someone dropped it off themselves, but I didn't hear them. The rusty red mailbox in front of my house squeaks when anyone opens it. I would have heard it unless it was late at night. But I checked the mail anyway this morning and I found this package. I check every day, even on Sundays, because occasionally I'll forget that I ordered something online and be surprised by it in the mailbox. It's the most excitement I get these days. The package is still on the table after I've had my first cup of coffee. It remains there after the second one, and even once all the dishes are washed and put away, it's still there. Maybe it was meant for me. Nobody has come looking for it yet. I push my fingers through my hair, feeling the slight dampness on my scalp from rigorous dishwashing and too much coffee. I prefer to do things by hand. I used to have a dishwasher, but it broke and I didn't feel like paying to have it fixed or replaced. I have all the time in the world now and not a damn thing to do with it. Quite suddenly, however, I feel pressed to act. Anticipation has been building inside me, bubbling up like overcooked rice until this very moment when I break and decide to tear the brown paper off the box to see what's inside. I grab it from the dining room table, cradling it like a baby, as I walk into the living room and sit down on the old couch that's about as old as my grandmother was. It has a horrendous paisley print that's grown on me over the years. I'd be embarrassed for anyone to see it, but nobody ever comes over. The box feels like nothing on my lap, barely even there. I wonder if it really is empty. My fingers tremble slightly as I carefully peel away the brown paper, revealing a plain white box underneath. There are no markings or logos, just a simple, pristine box. I run my thumb along the edge, hesitating for a moment before finally lifting the lid. Inside, nestled within a small bed of white tissue paper, is a single flash drive. Its sleek, metallic surface catches the light from the lamp beside me. The way the light flashes against it makes it seem like it's winking at me. I pick it up, turning it over in my hands. There are no labels or identifying marks on it, nothing to indicate what it contains or who sent it. It's blank just like the package. Curiosity and a touch of apprehension swirl inside of me. For all I know, this could contain something illegal, and by opening it, I've claimed ownership of whatever is on the drive. I should take it to the police instead. But that would require admitting to opening someone else's mail, and that's also against the law. Without knowing what's on it, there's no way for me to make a good decision. Throwing it away would be equally risky, as the owner could come looking for it. It could be important. I let out a long sigh, turning the flash drive over in my hand until the metal becomes warm. It's not going to do me any good to sit here and ponder what could be on it forever. Eventually, I'll have to check and see, assuming this isn't a trick to get me to install a virus on my computer. I've been meaning to replace that old thing anyway. I stand and walk over to my small desk in the corner of the living room where my laptop sits. It's an older model, but it gets the job done. I sit down, plug in the flash drive, and wait for the screen to come to life. I try not to think too much about what's on it, only that I need to check it to determine who it belongs to. There should be a name somewhere in the metadata. It's usually there, unless it's deliberately deleted. My laptop takes a frustratingly long time to boot up. I keep looking over at the window, paranoid that some dark figure is going to be lurking behind the washed-out flamingo pink curtains while the rhythmic sound of the hard drive fills the quiet room. Finally, the screen brightens and I'm prompted to log in. I'm not even sure why I bother with a password when I live alone. Nothing ever happens here. No crime, no break-ins, no visitors, nothing. But something has happened, and my palms are sweating as I move the cursor over to the folder that has appeared in my File Explorer. It's labeled with the word data, but there's nothing else telling me what's inside. As long as it's not a program, I'll click on it. I want to know who this belongs to so that I can return it to them. The idea that it's anything exciting is quickly fading. It's probably just work stuff, accidentally left in my mailbox by someone's coworker. I push my hair back, finding more sweat at the roots. I feel a little prickle on my scalp as the cool air meets my skin, then a shiver down my spine as I decide to open the folder. There's only one file, an Excel document that's labeled stocks. This is a little more interesting, a little more telling as to what I'm dealing with. Maybe this has to do with finance, but my little town isn't exactly known for its financial district. That's a bit of a joke, actually, because we don't even have one. The only places to work here are in retail and the occasional slow-moving government job. I hover over the file, right-clicking it and checking the metadata. I'm surprised when there isn't any. Everything is blank, including the creation date and author. There's nothing at all for me to discover without opening it. I guess I'll just have to open it. What's the worst that could happen? My finger moves before my brain processes what I'm doing, double-clicking the file to open it. The white light of a spreadsheet glows brighter than the morning sun peeking through the curtains, but it's not the brightness that causes me to pull my head back from the screen. It's the information in the spreadsheet, and now I'm certain I'm in trouble. Deep, deep trouble.
Chapter 2. Zane. 8-ball, corner pocket. I point to the far end of the table where Kiro is standing with his stick before leaning over the table and finishing the game. It's a clean shot, but inside my mind is chaos. I'm good at hiding it. I always hide how I feel from people, no matter how close they are to me. Kiro lets out a deep sigh, unable to hide his emotions as well as I can. He tosses his stick onto the table and begins digging the balls out of the pockets, tossing them onto the green velvet table. You're too good at this. Maybe give someone else a chance for once, Kiro says as I light a cigar under the guise of celebrating my victory. He had $1,000 on this game, which is now in my wallet. To a multimillionaire, that's nothing though. All I care about is a little flash drive that will turn my millions into billions overnight, and it was supposed to arrive here an hour ago. I'm nervous that something happened to it. You talked to the courier last night, right? I ask as Kiro starts arranging the glossy pool balls on the table. I bet he wants a rematch. Double or nothing. He looks up at me, a frown pulling together his already tight features. The one on the phone with the deep voice? He sounded like a robot. Robots don't deliver packages. At least not yet, I grumble. What time did he say he was going to come with the delivery? Kiro glances at his watch, a gold Rolex that's standard issue in my organization. Every high-ranking member has one, and they're all set to the exact same time, down to the millisecond. Nobody under me ever has an excuse to be late, but the courier isn't part of our Mafia group. He's with another organization ran by a man named Tima. We're related somehow, hailing from the same small town in Russia, but neither of us have bothered to explore the connection. We work together when it benefits us, and the package from the courier requires more cash than he has on hand right now to fully exploit. I'm in charge of handling this for both of us, but if there's an issue with the courier, I'm not sure we're going to be doing much business together in the future. Sloppy deals are a bad omen. If one thing goes bad, the whole plan starts to collapse like a house of cards. One wrong breath. One wrong move. Don't flinch, or you will lose everything. I can't afford to lose this deal. You don't come across opportunities like this very often, and fumbling it would be disastrous, not only for my own personal finances, but also for my relationship with Tima. Kiro looks up at me from his watch, shaking his head. 30 minutes late, unless he left the delivery at the front desk. They would have called me. I mumble, double-checking my phone. No calls. We're going to have to go down there and check. But this isn't good. That package is important. No double or nothing. Then, I assume, Kiro says, cracking a smile. I chuckle with him, but inside, I'm not happy. This package is more important than anything I've dealt with in the past 20 years in the Mafia. If the courier messed up the address or got intercepted, I might just start showing my emotions, and that won't be pretty. Let's go downstairs and check, I say. If there's a problem, I'm going to need to leave early to speak with Tima. Kiro's eyebrows move so far up his head that they nearly roll over the top. Tima? I wasn't aware this involved him. I shrug, playing down the seriousness of the situation as I take a casual puff from my cigar. The smoke lingers in front of me, masking my slight frown. He sent something to me that I don't want to lose. That courier was supposed to be on time. I was told he wouldn't be late. To be late is to be left out, Kiro says as we leave the lounge and go down a narrow set of stairs. I raise my cigar in agreement. Too true, in this case. And what is this case, exactly? Kiro asks, fishing for more information. I owe him a full explanation, but I'd like to get the flash drive first. Once everything is in place, then I'll tell him the whole story. Let's get the package and I'll show you, I say, taking the stairs by twos. There's this weird feeling in my gut that's telling me to go faster. Something is wrong, but I don't want to tell Kiro just yet. Without proof, I'll look paranoid. We reach the ground floor, and I push open the door to the lobby. The cool air a stark contrast to the heat building inside me. The receptionist looks up from her desk, a forced smile of politeness masking her curiosity. Did a package arrive recently? I ask, forcing myself to talk slowly. She checks her computer, then shakes her head. No, sir. Nothing came in today. On Friday we received a letter, but that was picked up already. The letter she's talking about is another bill. More money out without a single cent in since I started reallocating resources to the mission at hand. We're flush with cash from the assets I've sold, but our income is dropping like a rock. I turn to Kiro, who is now beginning to realize how serious this is. We need to find that courier, I tell him. He pulls out his phone. I can call him. I have the number. He's not going to answer a burner phone, I say. He probably already dumped it. Tima, then, he suggests. I'm already on it, I reply. Check the mailboxes to either side of us and make sure it didn't get dropped off in the wrong place by mistake. I'm going to get in touch with Tima in the meantime. Kiro nods, exiting the building to search our neighbors' mailboxes. I already know that the package isn't going to be in either of them. The number to our building is in big brass letters over the door. It's impossible to miss. I'm relieved to be alone, though. I need time to process my thoughts and get everything together. This could either be the biggest disaster of my career or a mere blip in the bigger picture. I'm praying for the latter, but I'm willing to force the universe's hand if I must. I don't have Tima's contact information on my cell phone. His line is encrypted and only available on a special phone in my office on the top floor. I have the receptionist dispose of my cigar. Then I take the elevator up, tapping on the shiny silver wall as the red numbers change. The ride is so smooth that I wouldn't even know I was moving if it wasn't for the glowing number 6 appearing in front of me. The door rolls open, and I step out, walking down the hallway to my private office. That's where the real money is made. People live and die from the decisions that get made there, and I don't take it lightly. My phone buzzes as I slide into the big leather seat behind my desk. It's Kiro, confirming the package isn't with either of our neighbors. I already knew that, which is why my hand is already on my old-fashioned desk phone. I put it to my ear, pressing a glowing plastic button that hard-coded to speed dial Tima. I didn't think I'd be calling him so soon after making this deal. I grit my teeth at what his response will be. He's known for his short temper. And I'm not much better when challenged. We can bond on the fact that we're both the top dog in our organization, but that's the same thing that has the potential to pit us against each other. Tima answers the phone after a few seconds, his voice obscured by the noise around him. Sounds like he's at a club in the middle of the day. Busy man. loves women and drinking. But I expect that from a rich man in his 30s. At 40, I've had enough of day drinking, but this debacle might get me to start up again. I have to assume this is about the package, Tima says, his voice dropping in pitch as he mentally tunes out the party and addresses business. Or lack thereof. I grumble. What? The volume of his voice matches his rising stress. Your package hasn't arrived, and that's going to be a huge problem.
Chapter 3. Monroe. I know I'm not supposed to be seeing this, but I can't stop scrolling. Thousands of entries flying past my eyes, almost too quick to process, detailing the future price of major stocks. I know in my gut that these aren't simply predictions. They're a glimpse into the future, insider trading that wasn't meant to be seen by someone like me. Whoever is behind this must already be filthy rich. Anyone with this much data would be able to make billions in the stock market overnight, which also means they're likely dangerous. If I know one thing about rich people, it's that they have a knack for making their problems disappear. And right now I think I've become the problem. Despite my dire concerns, I continue scrolling through the document, my brain absorbing the fascinating information within it. There are descriptions of shareholder meetings, future announcements, and planned manipulation of prices. With this information, I could transform my shrinking inheritance into a large fortune, capable of moving me out of my house and into a California mansion. I can already feel the sun on my skin and the cool blue water beneath me as I float in my future pool. I think I'd have a personal chef, perhaps a man who would give me massages and throw in a little extra when the mood called for it. Someone with a lot of muscle and more than a few tattoos. I've never really cared much for money, only the lack of work it results in. I don't mind not having a job. I'm more of a stay-at-home and read books all day kind of girl, anyway. Now, however, my imagination demands much more than books. It's drifting away into dreamland, where I'm rich and can buy anything I want, including protection from whoever is supposed to get this flash drive. My brain soaks in the data like a sponge, and although I feel a glimmer of guilt in the back of my mind, it's nothing compared to the rush I get from knowing the future of the stock market. The soonest date I can find is a month from now. That's when the action starts, and that's when I get rich. Maybe if I package the box back up, putting the flash drive back where I found it, nobody will know I got the data at all. I don't even have to make a copy. I have enough in my head, and thanks to my photographic memory and the emotional impact of my discovery, I'm not going to forget it. My heart is beating so fast as I go through the file, reading everything inside before ripping the flash drive out of my computer and charging back to the box where it came from. I toss it into the white tissue paper, closing the box and spinning it around on the table to get a better view of the damage I've done to the wrapping. If I tape it, they'll know I tampered with it, but if I leave it torn like this and put it back into my mailbox, it might be blamed on the person who delivered it. But what if they deny having messed it up? What then? The blame will come back to me. I shouldn't have opening it in the first place. That was a stupid thing to do, and now I can feel the panic starting to set in. They're going to know I messed with it. My fingerprints are all over the smooth metallic surface of the flash drive. I groan, opening the back again and retrieving the drive. I wipe it down with a dish towel, tossing it back into the box without allowing it to touch my skin. It was a mistake. People make mistakes all the time, and nobody is going to blame me for accidentally opening a box that was in my mail. It was delivered to my house. I assumed it was mine. But whoever created this is obviously a criminal. Insider trading is illegal, and that means I'm dealing with someone potentially dangerous. Who's to say they won't just kill me to keep me from talking about what I saw? Ironically, reporting me to the police would be the best outcome here. I take a deep breath, gripping the chair by the table so hard my knuckles feel like they're about to split. I shouldn't have done any of this, and now I'm in real trouble. Being a snitch isn't quite my style, but it might be the safest option. I grab my phone from the couch, dialing the emergency number. My thumb hovers over the call button, but I can't bring myself to do it. Maybe I'm being dramatic. Is this even what I think it is? Is it really insider trading, or is this just someone's research? My mind is racing, but there's no time to make a decision because it gets made for me. There's a knock on the door, deep and loud. It's so jarring that I drop my phone, the screen breaking the second it hits the wooden floor. I let out a yelp, knowing what this means. I've been caught, and there's no way for me to hide my guilt. The package is on the table, still open, exposing my sinful deeds. I don't want to answer the door, but it's impossible to pretend like I'm not home. My modest car is parked out front, and the hallway light is visible through the little stained glass window atop the doorframe. My entire body is electric, crackling with fresh anxiety as another knock threatens to bring down the front door. Whoever is out there isn't knocking to be let in. They're knocking to break the door down. And I'm totally helpless.
Chapter 4. Zane. This is more important than you realize. It's more important than anyone does. With the exception of me and Tima, I growl as I fling open the door to the armored luxury sedan parked halfway on the curb. Kiro is in the driver's seat, his hand wrapped around the steering wheel like he's trying to squeeze oil out of the leather. I wish I knew why. I'll tell you why, I say as I swing into my seat, slamming my door shut. But step on it. I need you to get to 1738 Grave Street as fast as possible. He looks at me like I'm crazy. We're already there, sir. Respectfully, none of this makes sense to me. I resist the temptation to slam my fist into the dashboard. We're at 1738 Grove Street, not Grave. You got it? The package was delivered to the wrong address. Kiro's eyes widen as he realizes the problem. I told the courier the correct address, sir. I swear I did. Just get us there. We don't have time to waste. I have no clue who lives there and what their next move would be should they find a flash drive in their mailbox. For all I know, they'll call the police, and then we're really in trouble. Kiro pulls out his phone, quickly typing the new address in and setting it up on the dashboard. He mutters something to himself in Russian as he checks the route, and then we pull off the curb and hit the open road. Traffic is thicker than the tension in the car, but Kiro is a skilled driver. He weaves through cars like he's playing an arcade game while I break down the current situation. So Tima upheld his part of the deal, as I assumed he was. The guy is a straight shooter, from everything I know. His courier is trusted as much as we can trust Tima, so I doubt he did any of this on purpose, I say, pulling a cigar from my jacket before thinking better of it. No need to show how stressed I am. I have to play this like it isn't eating me up inside, while still letting Kiro know that it's a big deal, a very big deal. A multi-billion-dollar deal. It's about the stock market, I continue. We spent a whole lot of time and money to get this information. It's a data dump, a little file on a device the size of my thumb that's worth more than 1,000 Miami condos. It's our ticket to riches. We're already rich, Kiro reminds me, turning down a narrow street and pushing hard on the gas. I chuckle. Not like this, Kiro. Not like this. I'm talking billions of dollars here. We need that package. I don't care if it's at Grave Street, Grove Street, or the middle of the ocean. We're going to use all of our resources to get it back. In this case, it could be as simple as knocking on a door and asking for it, he says, and his words are calming to me. It could be that simple. I could be stressed over nothing, but when there's this much on the line, it's hard not to be. Even the smallest mistake could change our entire future. We need to be prepared for anything, I say as I pull a gun from inside my jacket. I check the magazine, making sure it's full. The last thing I want is to run out of bullets when I'm caught in a shootout. Paranoid as it might be, I'm always anticipating one. Since my old rival caught his ass hauled off to jail, I haven't had to fire a single round, but you never know which way the winds will blow. Fortune often turns to chaos when you least expect it. There's always a tipping point, smoke in the air miles before you reach the wildfire. False positives are common, but I have a bad feeling in my gut, a sour, sickening twist of organs that only happens when things are about to get really bad. I check my gun again before tucking it back into my jacket and glancing at the navigation. We're rolling through a residential area 2 minutes away from the target address. It's a cruel joke that that's such a similar address in the same city, but I'm also thankful it's so close. We won't waste much time on this endeavor, and I never skip the gym. Muscle doesn't build itself. Kiro likes to joke that I'm 99% muscle and 1% human, but I disagree. There isn't an ounce of humanity left in me after what I've been through. I'm incapable of love, incapable of empathy, and incapable of caring about anything but money. Sex, too, but lately less of that. I'm not depressed. I'm just focused on making my fortune before I'm too old to enjoy it. Besides, women in this lifestyle aren't all they're cracked up to be. They'll lie, steal, and gleefully stab you in the back once you're no longer useful to them. Forget about opening up and having a real conversation. It's all posturing. There's nothing real about it. I used to think that one day I would get married and have a few kids, but that hope is quickly fading with my age. It's not that I'm too old to keep up with a wife and kids, but I am too old to deal with the crap that comes from women who directly seek out Bratva men. They're nothing but trouble. I've seen plenty of men fall for a tall pair of heels and some cheap party tricks, but I have too much to lose to ever be fooled by a woman. If that makes me odd, so be it. I'd rather be odd and rich than normal and broke. I look over at Kiro, wondering if he feels the same way. I know he was involved with a woman a few years back, but that didn't last long. It feels like they never do. Kiro's eyes are focused on the road, but I can see his jaw clenching. I've got us on track, Zane. We'll be there in a minute. Good, I mutter, my mind returning through the possible scenarios we might face at this house. Once we're there, we move fast. We can't afford any slip-ups. Kiro nods, accelerating as we navigate through the increasingly cluttered streets. It feels like we're moving out of the city and into regular neighborhoods. What if they don't want to hand it over? He asks. Then we make them, I say coldly. We use any means necessary to get that flash drive. This isn't a negotiation, it's a retrieval. Kiro glances at me, and I can see a shimmer of excitement in his eyes. Maybe he misses the old days, the times when we were constantly at odds with my rival, Maxim. I felt like I had to be young forever when Maxim was still around. I could never sleep with both eyes shut. I always had to have one open and both ears listening for signs of danger. Once or twice, Maxim almost killed me. We both played that game. I hit him in the leg once, knocking him to the floor, but my gun jammed when I went to finish him off. Karma came knocking for him when he thought he got off the hook, and 2 weeks later he was in prison. I might be taking the same sorry route myself if I don't get this flash drive back. Tima would start a war over it, even though I feel like it's partially his fault for sending a courier to do the work he should have done himself. That flash drive is far too important to send someone who is capable of screwing up the address. All I can do is hope that things haven't gotten out of hand as we pull up to the house, a modest one-story brick building with a weed-ridden lawn and a few flowers by the mailbox. It's the kind of place that screams normalcy, the kind of place where people go about their lives without a clue of the chaos that could invade at any moment. But it looks as though chaos has already come, because there's a shiny black sedan parked outside, reeking of luxury in a neighborhood that warrants nothing but middle-class modesty. It doesn't belong, and that's the first sign that something is amiss. But it's not the last. Not by a mile. I feel it in my bones as we park, and it becomes even worse as I look out the window toward the house. This isn't Bratva territory, nor is it anywhere that dangerous gangs would lurk, but that doesn't stop a prickle from hitting the back of my neck and making my hair stand on end. This isn't right, I mutter to Kiro. I need you to be very careful. You have a bad feeling? He asks. A very bad one, I reply, shaking my head. Something strange is going on, and I don't like it one bit.
Chapter 5. Monroe. I regret opening the door, but I didn't want it to be broken down. I thought it might be the police, or maybe some special forces tasked with retrieving top-secret information. It's not. It's so much worse. Search the place. It wasn't in the box, so it must be in here somewhere. Leave me with the girl. The man speaking is a tall, thin man in his 40s with a gaunt face and eyes that lack the soul of a normal person. They remind me of those historical photos from World War II, where shell-shocked soldiers with piercing eyes stared far past the camera into the great unknown. He limps when he approaches me, but he's fast, like he's used to moving that way. His fingers wrap around my upper arm, pulling me toward him before I can even think about running. There's a back door to the house, but I'm not going to be able to reach it now. I'm stuck with this monster and his two goons. He pulls me closer, and I can smell the acrid smoke clinging to his charcoal suit. Even though he's well dressed, I know he's not a good guy. Men in suits rarely are, especially when they try to break down your door. "Where is the drive?" he asks, shaking me so hard my teeth rattle. "I don't know what you're talking about," I lie. "Don't be cute with me," he growls, pushing me up against the wall. He uses his entire body to keep me there, a sick smile on his face as he pins me in place. "How did a sweet little woman like you get something like this? How much did they pay you?" "Please," I whimper, wishing I could dissolve into the wall. "I don't know what you're talking about." He pulls his hand back like he's about to slap me, the gold ring on his pinky promising a world of pain should he follow through. "It's on the table. Your guys have probably already found it," I blurt. "Please, I don't have anything to do with this." "You have everything to do with this," he insists, pulling me away from the wall and pushing me into the kitchen. "Now, I'd like you to start talking. Tell me everything." I stumble into the kitchen, where one of the burly goons is holding the box I tore open to get the flash drive. I look even more guilty, more involved in whatever is going on, by having opened it. "That wasn't meant for me," I say, looking around for a way to escape. A big kitchen knife in the sink calls to me, but it wouldn't do much good if these men have guns. I doubt they'd come here unarmed. "Let's get a name first," the tall man says, leaning over me and casting a shadow across my face. "Mine is Maxim. Pleased to meet you." He extends his hand, but I'd rather die than shake it. I recoil, backing myself against the sink. The knife is my backup, but I'm not even sure if I have the heart to use it. I've never been in a fight before. Maxim closes the distance between us, lowering his hand. His expression follows, his eyebrows coming down so low that his eyes almost disappear. "We already have what we came for. It's over for you unless you start talking. I'm sure you have some dirt on Zane." "Zane?" I ask, having never heard the name. "I'm sorry, but this is honestly a mistake. That package came to my house by accident. It was dumb of me to open it, but I promise I don't even know what it's for." Maxim chuckles, but his face stays rigid. He pulls a pistol from his waistband, pointing it at me. My stomach drops, my heart skipping several beats. This is really happening. I don't know who the hell Zane is, or why I have the flash drive, but Maxim isn't taking chances. He takes another step toward me, the barrel of his gun aimed right at my chest. "I've had a very long day and I'm tired of playing games. Let's make a deal. You tell me everything you know and I'll let you live." "I told you. I don't know anything." "Don't play stupid," Maxim hisses. "How did you get the drive? Either you're a dumb pawn for Zane or you're working close to him." "I told you," I reply, my voice cracking. "It came to my house by accident. Someone dropped off a package and I thought it was a birthday gift." "You expect me to believe that?" "Yes," I plead, "because it's the truth." Maxim cocks his head to the side, his hand tightening around his gun. "Look," I stutter, "I can't give you any information because I don't have any. Maybe if you explain to me what this is all about, I can help you." "You'd do anything to save your life?" Maxim asks, his tongue flicking across his lower lip. His eyes travel over my chest, and there's a hint of something warm in his frozen eyes. It's not the type of warmth that indicates kindness, however. It's something so much more devious than that. I nod, trying not to cry. My body is shaking uncontrollably, and there's a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach. I don't understand what this is about or what he wants, but I have no choice but to comply. "You can help me," Maxim grumbles. "You see, I've been in prison for a long time. I'm hungry. They don't feed us well there." He steps closer, pressing his knee between my legs. I'm forced to lean back against the counter, my heart beating wildly in my chest. "Please," I beg. Maxim reaches down and unbuckles his belt. I'm frozen in fear, unable to move. The knife in the sink is my only defense, but can I reach it before he shoots me? Would it be better to submit to him and allow him to ruin my life like this? "Please what?" Maxim growls. I turn my head away, squeezing my eyes shut as tightly as possible. I can hear his fingers fumbling with his pants, the hot air from his mouth wafting against my neck. Tears roll down my cheeks as I realize what I have to do. I'm not going to go out like this. I can't let such a horrid man have this much power over me. I reach back into the sink and find the knife, my fingers curling around the wet wooden handle. Maxim doesn't notice. He's too focused on my body, his eyes popping out of his gaunt face as he imagines what he's going to do to me. But I'm not going to let it get that far. Just as Maxim pushes up against me, I pull the knife out in front of me to defend myself, the blade flashing in the light, as though it's winking at me. Is it useless to bring a knife to a gunfight? I'm about to find out.
Chapter 6. Zane. I don't have time to call for backup. This situation is critical. Someone has beat us to the punch, and they've already checked the mailbox. The rusty metal door to it is hanging agape like a broken jaw. The sedan on the curb was the first sign that something was horribly wrong, but seeing that the front door to the house is open sets off all kinds of alarms in my head. They're screaming at me so loud that I can barely hear my own thoughts. I hold Kiro back before he can hop onto the lawn. We've been compromised, I mutter. Stay quiet and shoot to kill. He nods, pulling a pistol from his jacket and cocking it. Kiro is always prepared. We have no idea what we might be facing. It could be an ambush. It could be Tima, here to make sure his package is retrieved. It could be a third party, one that could potentially cause the whole operation to fall apart. I push open the front door, and the sound of my footsteps on the wooden floor echo through the small house. It smells like old carpet and lemon furniture polish, and it looks like it hasn't been updated in decades. I have no idea why someone would leave a flash drive with insider stock data in the mailbox of a house like this. Surely they'd realize it belonged to a regular person and not someone from the Mafia. My blood boils. The thought that someone is trying to get a leg up on me driving me crazy. This is supposed to be my moment. Tima is supposed to have delivered the goods. Kiro comes in close behind me, but I already know we're in over our heads when I spot a bald man in a suit toting a rifle in the hallway. He spots me and lifts his weapon, but I'm faster, shooting him twice in the chest. I duck to the side as the bullets from his gun rip through the air above my head, the sound deafening in the small space. There's no time for regrets as the man falls forward, his heavy body landing on the floor with a thud. There's no point in trying to hide now, I say. The whole block will have heard that. Kiro moves forward quickly, clearing the living room while I head for the kitchen. I'm barely halfway when a man stumbles out, blood oozing from his side and dripping like hot candle wax onto the floor. I'm stunned by what I'm seeing, not because I don't expect there to be anyone else here, but because I was certain Maxim was still in prison. There's no way he'd be at the house, attempting to steal my prize. And yet, he's here, bleeding from what appears to be a stab wound in his side, walking with an even deeper limp than when I shot him in the leg. He's carrying a torn box in his left hand, and a gun in his right. I hear a gunshot from the living room, and the sound of a body falling the ground. It's too heavy to be Kiro's. It must be another one of Maxim's guys. You're early, Maxim growls, his voice gravelly from his injury. Or maybe I'm late. Either way, the party is just starting. You look terrible, I remark, eyeing his bloody clothes and pale face. He tries to lift his gun, but I'm first to shoot, hitting him in his shoulder and making him drop the gun. He's hard to kill though, sprinting away when he realizes how badly he's compromised. His men aren't coming to save him. I just can't let him escape with the package. I shoot blindly this time, praying that I'll hit him again before he can get away. His movements are unpredictable as he jerks his body around like a puppet with a few strings broken. But I land a hit. Only it's not a hit I wanted to land. The bullet hits the package, sending the contents flying in every direction. Smoldering shreds of paper and metal fragments explode outward like a grenade. Maxim drops what's left of the package, hobbling out the back door and disappearing. I have the sense not to follow him, as much as I want him dead. The back door would be the ideal place to get ambushed if he decided to wait for me, and I'd rather not get my brains blown out over a flash drive. My eyes scan the floor, darting over the remnants of the package in search of the drive. It could still be intact, assuming my bullet didn't hit it, but I saw more than paper leave that box. I fear the worst. As I step toward it, I hear Kiro in the other room. "Drop that knife, or you're going to get it," he growls. Whoever has the knife isn't with Maxim. They're the one who stabbed him, which means they might just be the owner of this house. I don't want Kiro to kill them. I have some questions that need to be answered first. I rush to the kitchen where the noise is coming from, only to find that the source is not some vicious killer with a machete trying to hack Kiro's head off. It's just a woman, trembling and afraid as she braces herself against the edge of the kitchen counter. "Maxim is gone," I announce as I walk in. Kiro glances at me, keeping his gun aimed at the woman. "Don't shoot the girl. She could be useful to us," I say. "For what?" the woman blurts. "For your sick fantasies. I want you to get out of my house before I stab you like I did to your friend." I'm surprised by her attitude. I like it, but I can tell it's also going to present a challenge. "My friend? Are you talking about Maxim? He's far from a friend, darling. Get out of my house." I sigh. "Listen, darling, you don't look like you want to get shot, and I'm sure Kiro here doesn't want to shoot you, so put the knife down and let's talk about this like civilized people." She hesitates, and that's precisely what I was waiting for. I sprint toward her, grabbing her wrist and yanking it back behind her head. The knife clatters into the sink behind her, and she lets out a shrill scream. She thought she could harm me like she did Maxim, but the only thing she's doing damage to is my ears. "Quiet," I bark, pulling her away from the sink. "I need you to tell me exactly who you are and what your involvement in this is." Kiro nods. "And where the flash drive is." I cringe at his words. I already know it's been destroyed. Those metal fragments couldn't have come from anything else, and there was no sign of it in the hallway. I shot it, so the guilt rests on my shoulders. "I don't know anything," the woman says, her eyes welling up with tears. "Please, I really don't." I know that the best way to get someone from blabbering on and on is to ask them questions that are easy to answer. Working up from there proves a lot simpler than trying to get them to admit everything at once. "What's your name?" I ask. "Mine is Zane." "Zane," she repeats, looking up at me with a slight frown. Her brown eyes are so pretty, even when she's terrified. Her pupils are so big and deep, I feel like I could drown in them. I'm drawn to her, fascinated by her innocence. It's obvious she has no clue what's going on, and dare I say I find that attractive. "Yes, Zane, and what's your name?" "Monroe," she says, pulling her shoulders back. She tries to pull her hand out of mine at the same time, but I won't allow her to escape. She's the only witness to what happened today. "That's a pretty name, Monroe," I say calmly, despite the tension in the room. Kiro and I are part of the Russian Mafia, often referred to as the Bratva. I call the shots, so if I snap my fingers, you die. I don't care about the law, police, or prison. I operate outside of all that. Do you understand? She nods, but I see the defiance in her eyes. There's a burning ember of fury deep within her, waiting for the opportunity to burst forth and burn this entire place down. I'll have to keep a very close eye on her. She might not look dangerous, but she most certainly is. I squeeze my hand a little tighter over hers, looking into her eyes. "You received a package today that belongs to me." "That's what Maxim said, too," she replies softly. "He lied." "How do I know you're not the one who's lying?" she asks, tilting her head to the side and pouting her lips ever so slightly. "Because the address to my headquarters is frighteningly similar to your address. I will take you there and you can see for yourself," I explain. "How does that sound?" "I'm not going anywhere with you." I chuckle. Now, darling. You don't have a choice. You're caught in a precarious situation, and now that Maxim knows you're involved, he'll want to get his hands on you again." She shudders, and I know I'm getting through to her. Maxim is worse than I am. People don't understand that things aren't all the same in the Bratva. Some men have honor and values, even if they conduct criminal business. Others, like Maxim, will do anything and everything it takes to get rich, stepping on people on his way to the top. We're nothing alike, and I think Monroe already understands that from our brief interaction today. Can't you just let me go? I don't have the flash drive anymore. Maxim took it. Her words reveal a crucial piece of information about what she knows. You've seen the flash drive, I mutter, more to myself than to her. Did you plug it into your computer? She shakes her head vigorously enough for me to know that she's lying. Listen very closely, Monroe. I growl, yanking her closer to me. I can feel the heat of her body close to mine, and the heightened thump of her pulse as I grip her delicate hand. That flash drive has some of the most important information you or I will ever witness in our lives, and I have reason to believe it's been destroyed. If you know something, you had better tell me. Destroyed? Kiro asks loudly. I groan, turning to address him. Yes, a stray bullet hit the package. There are little pieces of it all over the hallway. Go and check for yourself. He mutters cruises under his breath in Russian as he leaves the kitchen with his head down. I hope he discovers that it's still intact, but I doubt it. Monroe is my only hope of getting anything off that flash drive. Even a small fraction of what was on there would still make me rich. I turn my attention back to Monroe, keeping my expression stern even as I loosen my grip on her hand. I honestly don't want to hurt her. She seems too pure, too innocent for this wicked world. I can protect her, but it's going to come at a cost.
Chapter 7. Monroe. I've never seen a man so attractive yet so terrifying at the same time. Zane is built like a tank, lean muscle popping from his fitting suit. His thighs are large enough to crush boulders with, and his hands are almost 3 times the size of mine. His eyes are bright and piercing, and his jaw is set firm. Despite all that, he has a softness to him that Maxim didn't. The blue in his eyes isn't so dead. It's crisp and clear like a bright spring morning. The hair on his head is jet black, but the stubble on his face is a little lighter, with a slight tinge of gray. But those eyes. Jesus, I can't stop looking at them. Those blue eyes see right through me, stripping away all my defenses, leaving me bare and vulnerable. I feel naked in front of him, completely exposed. He narrows his eyes and they wrinkle at the sides. I know it's not just his age, however, it's the stress. He says he's in the Bratva and I believe him with every cell in my body. I've read about them in the papers and on the internet, but they're so much more real now. They're flesh and blood, not just names on a screen. Zane's hand is wrapped around my wrist and the heat of his skin is burning into mine. It's electric at the same time, running through me like a powerful current. His touch is gentle now, but I have no doubt he can be deadly. He's already threatened to kill me, but I have a bargaining chip. He wants the flash drive, which has apparently been destroyed in the gunfight, but I saw what was on it. I have the data right here in my head. Do you have any idea what's on the flash drive? Zane asks, his eyes locking onto mine. Did you see anything? I could tell you, but I don't believe you're not just going to kill me and dump me somewhere after you have what you want, I reply, adjusting my posture to seem more confident. In reality, I feel like I'm going to throw up. I wouldn't do that, he says, acting like I've hurt his feelings. That's laughable, considering the situation we're in. He can't emotionally manipulate me when he has a gun. He's not getting any sympathy for threatening my life. Kiro returns to the kitchen, shaking his head. Destroyed. There's nothing left of it. The muscles in Zane's jaw jump as he grits his teeth. That bullet was meant for Maxim, and so help me God, he will get it when I find him. I can feel the weight of his words, eclipsed only by the heaviness of my current predicament. This moment has changed my life forever, like the crash that stole my parents from me. Nothing will be the same anymore. The peace has finally ended. Let's take her back to the office, Zane says, wrapping his hand around my waist and pulling me up against him like I'm his date. We can figure things out from there. We'll probably take her to my mansion afterward. Kiro nods obediently. I doubt I'll get any help from him or anyone under Zane. If I want to get out of this, I have to negotiate with the boss himself. There's no other way. I sink into Zane's muscle frame, feeling his warmth and secretly reveling in how protective his body feels against mine. He's like a grizzly bear who has decided that he wants to rip everyone's throat out except for mine. Whether he continues to spare my life remains to be seen, but for now I'm safer with him. He chased Maxim away, and he doesn't seem as intent on ruining my life. He just wants what's on that flash drive, and I'm the only one who seems to know what it is. I do wonder what became of the person who created it in the first place. Can they not be reached? Do they not have another copy somewhere? Or was this the final shred of evidence to a massive financial crime? I can see why they wouldn't want to make copies. Something like this could put someone in prison for the rest of their life. Questions run through my mind faster than I can answer them as I'm swept away from everything I know and love, out of my quiet little house and onto the street. We rush past my old rusty mailbox, and I reach out and close it before Zane can pull me away to his car. I doubt I'm going to be back for a while. Something deep within me says I might never be back, but I try to ignore that voice. I've been through hell before, and hope was the only thing that kept me going. Now, when things are darker than ever, I need that little glimmer of hope. But it's difficult to have as Zane pushes me into the back seat of his car and climbs in beside me. It fades even more when Kiro pulls the car out onto the street, and we speed off. Nobody will know I'm gone for a long time. Nobody will miss me. Nobody will come by looking for me. I've vanished, and I might as well have never existed in the first place. Chapter 8. Monroe. Zane lights a cigar as we cruise down the little winding road out of my neighborhood. Smoke plumes around his face, masking his expression, but it also hides his eyes from me. I can observe him more carefully before he sees where I'm looking. My curious eyes travel over his torso, and I'm impressed again by the broadness of his chest. He's so muscular, almost professionally so, which makes him bulky without having any extra fat tucked away. I keep looking around for it, at his thighs and midsection, but there's only muscle. I can even see the outline of his abs a bit as he adjusts his posture. The cigar smoke wafts into my nostrils, and it doesn't smell awful like the cigarillos people outside the gas station are always smoking. It's much more pleasant, rich and fragrant, like a woody forest in the springtime. Zane turns his head, blowing a puff of smoke toward the window, and that's when I realize I've been staring for too long. My cheeks flush as I try to come up with a reason to explain my actions, but there isn't one. I shouldn't find this man attractive. He's dangerous, and he's holding me captive. And yet, I can't help but wonder what might happen between us. He hasn't threatened to kill me since we've gotten into the car, and I'm frightfully aware of how much of his side is pressed against mine. He doesn't have to be this close, but he is. I feel like he's going to place his hand on my thigh at any moment, and then I won't know what to do. Would I slap him, or simply relent to his power? My thoughts are a jumbled mess. I can't believe what's happened today. I'm so lucky to be alive. Are you comfortable? Zane asks, glancing over at me. I look up at him, startled by his sudden question. As comfortable as I can be, considering I'm a prisoner. He chuckles. I wouldn't call you a prisoner, darling. I would. Fine, he growls, taking a deep drag of his cigar. Be that way. I'll call you a prisoner if you want, but at least I'm not letting you rot in some jail cell while we figure this all out. You should thank me for what I've done for you. Maxim would have killed you. I have allowed you to continue existing. Oh yes, I snap. Thank you so much. I wouldn't want to fall into the hands of the wrong bad guy. You're the good bad guy though, right? Zane smiles. I like your sarcasm, darling. I glare at him, crossing my arms. You're a smart one. A smart ass, I should say, he teases. But seriously, you can trust me. You won't come to any harm with me, provided you tell me everything. I can make things very good for you. I will show you what I mean when we get to my house. I thought you said you were taking me to your office. I am, but first I want to process you. What does that mean? I ask, my heart leaping into my throat. A smirk pulls up one side of his mouth, and he takes a few more puffs from his cigar before answering. You'll see, darling. Don't worry your pretty little head about it. I roll my eyes and turn away from him. Look at me, he says. I obey. but not without a huff. "Do you like the cigar?" he asks. "It's Cuban. Very expensive. They don't allow them in the States." I shrug. I wouldn't know. Never had one. "You never had one? I'll change that," he says, reaching into his jacket and producing another, which he promptly lights with a match. The tip glows a bright orange before he blows out the flame and hands it to me. "Don't worry. It's not like cigarettes. It won't kill you. I think you'll like it. Just be careful not to inhale too hard." "If you say so," I reply, hesitantly accepting the cigar. I feel like I should just play along with him. As long as he's not trying to get me to do anything dangerous, getting on his good side is going to save me a lot of misery later on. Besides, he seems to enjoy the banter a little too much. I don't want him to get the idea that I'm secretly flirting with him. I lift the cigar to my lips and take a quick puff, immediately regretting it. "That was a weak puff," Zane says, laughing. "Put your mouth around it like this." He demonstrates, and the tip of the cigar turns a bright shade of orange as he sucks on it. Then, he lifts his head and lets out a stream of smoke, his face illuminated by the glowing ember. "Like that," he says. "Not too hard, just suck on it a bit." I take a second, more tentative puff, and it goes a lot smoother this time. The taste isn't awful, and the sensation is nice. It's not like a cigarette, and the smell is far more pleasant. "There you go," Zane purrs. "Wrap those lips around it nice and tight. Don't waste any of the smoke. Taste it on your tongue. Enjoy it." His words are laced with innuendos, and I know exactly what he's doing. He's teasing me, trying to get me flustered so I won't be able to resist him. I'm not stupid. I'm not going to fall for it. Even if I might not hate the taste of the cigar, and the heat from the smoke as it slides into my mouth, and the way his eyes light up when he watches me. "See, you like it," Zane says, "and we're just getting started." Kiro laughs from the front seat, and I suddenly feel embarrassed. I hand the cigar back to Zane. "I'd rather not have this." He shakes his head. "Oh no, darling, keep it, we have more." I sigh, looking away. I can't believe this is happening. How did my quiet little life turn into this? The rest of the car ride is quiet. Zane doesn't try to start a conversation again. Maybe he realizes I'm not in the mood, or maybe he's too busy thinking about what's going to happen when we arrive. My stomach twists into a tight knot as I try to anticipate the next phase of this horrible day. We pull into the parking garage of a tall building, and then we climb out of the car. The building is much nicer than I had anticipated, but I suppose I shouldn't be surprised. The car we came in was nothing like anything I've ridden in before. Whatever it is that Zane does, it obviously makes him a lot of money. "No use in running, by the way," Zane says as he puts his hand around my waist again. "There's nowhere to go where my men won't find you. In fact, that would be the best outcome if you decided to book it. With Maxim out on the prowl, you're not safe anywhere but with me." I hate to admit that he's right, so I remain silent, allowing him to escort me to an elevator and ride up into the building. Kiro gets out on the second floor, but Zane and I keep going up until we reach the top floor. "My private office," Zane says as the elevator door rolls open. I walk down a long hallway with him, arriving at his office. As we step inside, I'm met by the smell of cedar and cigar smoke, intertwined with old leather, and a chemically smell that reminds me of getting my oil changed at the mechanic. It's something to do with guns, I assume. There are several of them mounted on the wall, various rifles and a black shotgun. "Welcome to my private domain. There are no cameras here, no microphones, and nobody can hear what happens from outside this office. You're sealed off from the rest of the world," Zane says, waving vaguely around his office. I don't know whether to find that comforting or terrifying. I think I'd rather have people know where I am and what I'm doing, but Zane takes the opposite stance. He wants everything to stay as private as possible. Lucky for him, he's going to get his way. I have nobody, I have nothing. I'm about as private of a person as he could have chosen to kidnap. "What I need you to do now is remove all of your clothing," Zane says. Chapter 9. Monroe. I blink a few times, caught by surprise. Did he really just tell me to undress? You have blood all over you. For one, that's a biohazard, and two, I don't want DNA evidence following you around. I have a robe in the bathroom that you can wear until we get you something new, he explains. Oh, I say, my cheeks still flushing red despite realizing he's not trying to get me to expose myself to him. I step toward the bathroom to change, but he holds up a hand to stop me. Remove the clothing first, darling. I need to make sure you're not carrying any weapons with you. Seriously? I ask with a scoff. He gives me a dry smile as he sits down behind his desk. The leather chair creaks under his heavy body. I'm completely serious. If you're capable of stabbing Maxim, you're capable of taking a stab at me. Remove your clothing. I glare at him as I peel off my shirt and pants, but I can't maintain eye contact with him as I unclasp my bra and drop it on the ground. I know he's getting off to this. He loves how vulnerable I am and how much power he has over me. I'm trying not to feel so conflicted about this, but there's a buzz in my lower belly that's getting increasingly difficult to ignore. I hate Zane for what he's doing to me, but I can't ignore the excitement that it brings to my life. My nipples are so hard they achy, and there's a moisture between my thighs that I would rather Zane not know about. As I drop my underwear on the floor, Zane exhales loudly through his nose. Do you have a boyfriend? He asks. No, I reply, speaking toward my feet. Your kitty is shaved, he notes. I just prefer it that way. Well, it's very pretty. You have a beautiful body, he says, rising from his chair and moving around the desk. My body stiffens as he approaches me, and goosebumps rise on my arms and legs. The slightest movement of the air against my skin is enough to send waves of prickling arousal throughout my body. If he moves any closer, I might even faint. Do you mind if I touch you? He asks, his voice low and grumbly in his chest. My breath catches in my throat. I don't know how to answer him, and I don't know why it's so hard for me to say no. I should push him away and run to the bathroom, but I'm frozen to the plush carpet, captured by his intoxicating masculine energy. It buzzes within me, drowning out my senses with relentless noise. So soft, Zane mutters, placing the back of his hand on my shoulder and running it down my arm. I stare out ahead of me, at his empty desk and the map of the world behind it, but I can barely see anything. My brain refuses to concentrate on the scene in front of me. I'm drawn to his touch, to the back of his hand, like it's wrapped around my entire body. One touch, but it has become my entire universe. You shaved this morning? He asks, running his hand down my side. A chill runs through me, and I nod, yes. You're so soft, he says, his voice dangerously close to my ear. I can feel the heat of his breath on my sensitive skin, the promise of what could happen if I let him continue. I pull away before his hand can travel down any further. I know where he's going, but I can't let him touch me like that. This isn't at all appropriate, especially not in light of what has happened. Have I lost my mind? Not yet, clearly. Pulling away was the right choice, and the responsible thing to do. I turn from him, walking away to the bathroom to get the robe. My dignity is hanging by a thread as it is. I can't let things go further. Your ass is incredible, he mutters as I walk away. Not an ass you'll ever get, I reply, but my voice wavers. I want to sound confident, but instead, I sound like I doubt myself. He chuckles, but doesn't respond. It's humiliating that he knows I can't resist him already. His power is nothing like I've ever experienced, and the way his voice makes my toes curl is damn near impossible to ignore. I feel so small as I wrap his giant cotton robe around my small shoulders. I'm grateful to be protected by such a large cocoon of fabric, but it also reminds me of how powerless I am in Zane's domain. The bathroom is luxurious, with a massive marble counter and a giant shower. A bathtub takes up half the room, and I could easily swim laps in it. The sink has several bottles and cans lined up along the edge, shaving creams and colognes. It's almost like he lives up here in his office, but he mentioned having a house, a mansion. That was what he called it. I wonder if that's where I'll be going after this. When I come out of the bathroom, Zane is sitting back at his desk, scribbling on a sheet of paper. "Come over here," he commands. I do, reluctantly, and he points at the ground. "Sit." "Right here?" I ask. "Yes, right here." In front of me. I slowly sink to my knees in front of him, not understanding why I'm doing it. He's not forcing me, but I obey anyway, knowing that it's the best thing I can do for myself in this situation. "Good girl," he says. "You listen well. I'm glad to see that. It's good to know that I can trust you. Now, the only way this is going to work is if you and I can establish some kind of trust. Do you agree?" "I don't think I have a choice," I reply. "No, you don't. So let's make this work. I need to know everything about that flash drive, but I'm not going to be able to force it out of you, so you have a choice." I wait with bated breath. "What is it? Torture or worse?" "I can take you to my estate, but I know there are some things you'd like to get from your house first. Personal belongings, clothes, maybe some important documents, am I right?" I nod. "So, I will take you to my estate. We will stay there tonight, and in the morning we will go back to your house and collect your things. We're doing this to build trust. I will protect you and provide what you need." I raise an eyebrow. "And the other option?" He smirks. "You leave my office, you take the elevator to the ground floor, and you exit through the front lobby. 3 seconds later, the sniper that Maxim has perched on the room of the opposite building puts a bullet in the back of your head." I recoil in shock. "What sniper? What are you talking about?" "I've already gotten word that there's someone on the roof of the building across from us with a gun. You go out there and you're dead. If I go out there, I'm also dead. That's why we're leaving in my armored car, and Kiro is going to have a couple of our men take care of the threat," he explains. "Thankfully, there are no windows in this office, or we'd probably both be dead already." I shudder at the thought. "You're safe as long as you stay here with me. Once you leave, you're fair game." "That doesn't seem like a choice," I mumble. Zane smiles. "It's not. So, you'd better be on your best behavior and earn my trust." "Or what?" "Or you die," he says flatly. "That's the way this game is played. I know you don't want to give me the information on the flash drive because we lack trust between us. My job is to convince you to trust me." "How will you do that?" "By doing what you asked me to do. Take you home and gather your belongings tomorrow morning. I'm not going to torture you. That's not the type of man I am," he says, flipping over the sheet of paper on his desk and scribbling something on the back. "What are you writing?" I ask, trying to peer over the top of the desk. From my position on the floor, it's difficult to see. Maybe that's why he put me there. "A shopping list," he replies. "Some nice lingerie, maybe a bikini or two. I have a pool that you'd probably enjoy, and a hot tub if you're into that sort of thing." I crinkle my nose at his suggestion. "How about some jeans and a t-shirt?" He shrugs. "I'll add those to the list. I assumed you already had them at your house." "Yes, but I also have underwear." He gives me a doubtful look. "A woman like you deserves something that accentuates her pretty figure. Those cheap cotton panties you had on weren't doing you any favors." "Rude," I mutter, crossing my arms. "I'm being honest. Don't take it personally. It's a gift, and I think you'll be happy when you see yourself wearing something that accentuates your curves," he says. "You'll be staying with me for a while. We're going to be seeing a lot of each other." I blush, and I can't figure out why. The thought of wearing lingerie and bikinis around him makes me feel embarrassed, but also strangely excited. I'm not attracted to him, am I? He's an attractive man, and his muscles are insanely hot, but that doesn't mean I should be swooning over him. He's my captor. There's nothing else between us, and there never will be. He's standing up, handing the sheet of paper to me along with the pen. "Just write your size on here, and I'll hand it off to one of my assistants. What's your favorite color?" "Blue," I reply. He nods. "Right blue." I sigh, adding the color and my sizes for the various clothing items. My eyes move over the paper, trying to see everything he wrote. I almost laugh when I see the word thumb underlined twice. He's really adamant about dressing me up like his arm candy. Here you go, I say, handing him the sheet of paper once I'm finished. Can I stand up now, or do you want me on my knees like this forever? He takes the paper from me, glancing down at it before meeting my eyes again. His are such a beautiful blue that I get lost in them for a moment. They're so deep and expressive, and the emotion that's swimming around in them is almost too much to handle. I don't mind keeping you down there, he says, a grin creeping onto his face. I shake my head and rise to my feet. You're insufferable. Yet you're the one who's suffering, not me, he teases, heading to the door. Come, let's get you to the house. Clearly Maxim knows where my office is, so it's going to be safer to spend most of our time elsewhere.
Chapter 10. Zane. I know enough about Monroe to know she's not a threat. I didn't think she was, but it pays to run background checks on people you're not already familiar with. That's what I was doing when she was in the bathroom. As for Maxim's sniper, I can't say for sure that he doesn't exist. I mean, he certainly could, and that's good enough for me. As long as I can convince Monroe to come to my house and stay there for a while, I'm golden. Sometimes, a little white lie is necessary in the grand scheme of things, even if my ultimate goal is to build trust. I can do that without words. Skin to skin. Body to body. That's how trust is really built. It's something you feel in your soul, not in the logical part of your brain. Monroe is smart, but she still has the same emotions and feelings as anyone else. I know that because I saw how her eyes grew when I touched her arm. She responded to me, whether she wanted to or not. I felt her heartbeat pick up, her pulse quicken. It was exhilarating. I haven't felt something like that in years. The last time I was really interested in someone was, well, it was a long time ago. And things didn't end well. I've learned that emotional attachment is the quickest road to misery, so I'm going to avoid it. I want her to feel something, but I must remain emotionless. Falling in love once before was a mistake. I'm not letting that happen again. Monroe is going to be my plaything, and I'm going to use her to get the information she saw on the flash drive. It's the only option I have left, assuming she hasn't forgotten everything already. Stress can wipe out memories and make foggy replacements, but I won't know how well Monroe remembers things until she opens up. I have time. About a month before things start to get crazy and Tima is going to start asking questions. As long as the money is good, he's not going to care how it happened, only that we both get paid what we deserve. That's the only important thing in all this. My car pulls into the parking garage under my house, and the gate rolls closed behind us. This place is as secure as they come. There's a whole underground world beneath my house, which I can access through the basement. That's where the real fun is. This is where you live? Monroe asks, her eyes widening as we take the elevator up to the ground floor. Her eyes widen even further as the doors open, and we step out into the marble hallway. This is where we both live now, I say, taking her hand and walking with her down the hallway. Let me show you around. Her hand fits perfectly within mine, despite being so small. My fingers are long, wrapping around her hand like a bear trap. She's delicate, and her skin is soft and smooth, unblemished by any scars or calluses. I almost feel guilty for holding her hand, like I'm leading an innocent soul straight into hell. It's so big, she says, gazing around at the high ceilings and ornate chandeliers hanging above us. How long have you lived here? Only a few years, I reply. My previous house wasn't quite as big, so I decided I needed a new place. Something more impressive, with a few more luxuries. What's money any good for if you don't spend it? Or invest it, she adds with a knowing look in her eye. I shrug. It's a little difficult to make the right investment choices without enough information. Maybe you can help me out with that. Maybe once I'm comfortable here, I will, she replies, leaving it as open-ended as she can. I know she's willing to reveal what she knows, but it won't be so easy. She's used to being comfortable, and I've taken her away from that. It's only natural for her to be wary, to want to settle back in before she tells me anything of value. I lead her through the kitchen, past the dining room, and toward the stairs. Is that a library? She asks, her eyes lighting up as we pass an arched doorway. It is. Would you like to see it? She nods. Please. I'd rather show you the bedroom, I reply. I have a bathing suit there for you already. We could take a swim in the pool. Just for a moment. It's so beautiful, she says, hanging on the doorway like I'm going to yank her away from it. Maybe I'll agree to the pool thing after you show me your books. It's my pleasure, I say, nodding and leading her toward the library. I didn't expect her to be interested in books, but maybe it's a good thing. She'll be less likely to cause trouble if she has something to read. I let her walk inside ahead of me. It's been ages since I've shown anyone my private book collection. There are thousands of titles, most of which I've read. Some of them are in Russian, but most are English. I spent a lot of time polishing up my language skills. Wow, Monroe says, her voice echoing around the massive room. There are bookcases built into every wall, and each is filled from top to bottom with hardbacks. Are these all yours? She asks. Every single one. I have a system of organization, so you can feel free to browse as much as you'd like. Most of the books have been read, but a few are still waiting, I reply, watching her wander around the room. She reaches out and touches the spines of the books, admiring them like they're paintings instead of just text. So beautiful, she says. They are, I agree, stepping up behind her and placing my hands on her hips. Her curves are addicting, and I find myself quickly forgetting about why she's really here. I just want her. I want her so badly that it hurts. I slide my hand around her waist, pressing against her midsection and pulling her back into my body. She gasps, leaning her head back and gazing up at me with those wide, beautiful eyes. What are you doing? Just holding you, I say. Why? Because you're gorgeous, and I like touching you. It makes me feel good, I say, moving my lips down toward hers. Stop, she says, putting a finger up between our mouths. I've already told you, that's not happening. I don't want you. I chuckle, shaking my head. I've seen the way you respond to me. You can't lie. Your body is telling me everything I need to know. The only thing you need to know is the information on that flash drive, she snaps, pulling away from me and frowning. And you're not going to get it by acting that way. I want safety, and I don't feel safe with you acting this way. I feel like you're trying to take advantage of my situation. And it's disrespectful. She says that like I would care about the rules and moral codes regular people abide by. But I'm a Bratva boss, as ruthless as they come, and she needs to learn that. She might think she's special, but she's not. I could have taken advantage of you already, I reply, stepping toward her again. But I didn't. I let you change into that robe, and I brought you here. I have shown you more hospitality than I should have. If you want me to treat you like the other men would, you are welcome to go home and die. She pulls away from me, shaking her head in disgust. You're a monster. A monster who's offering you safety instead of letting you die. Only so you can get information out of me. Otherwise, you'd leave me to Maxim. I laugh dryly. Do you really think that's the type of man I am? She crosses her arms, glaring at me. Absolutely. You're wrong, Monroe. So wrong, I reply, leaning back against a bookshelf. But you'll see. I'll show you what you're missing once you reveal that information to me. I could give you the world. I don't want the world. I want my house, my old life back, and I want to be normal. None of that is possible with you, she says, her voice turning from an angry growl to a desperate plea. She's mourning the loss of her previous life, but there's nothing either of us can do to get it back. That chapter is over. Her new life is with me. Don't worry, darling, I say, stepping toward her and brushing her hair back over her ear. I'll take care of you. Come, let's get into the pool. You'll feel better once you're in the water. She sighs, relenting and allowing me to put my arm around her and guide her back out of the library. We walk silently to the bedroom. Even though she's upset, I want her. I've never felt quite so obsessed with anyone, but I can't stop thinking about how she would look in that bikini. Meanwhile, she's suffering, and I'm the one who did this to her. I twisted her life into a nightmare, and now I'm trying to get her to sleep with me. It's bizarre, just as much as it is natural for my cruel heart.
Chapter 11. Monroe. The tension between us is undeniable, but it's nothing more than a power play for Zane. He doesn't want the same things as I want, he doesn't feel the same way, and he's using that to his advantage. Surely he knows what he's doing is working to some extent, but I don't want him to discover just how intoxicating his power is to me. It's not about the money at all, though I am impressed by his library. It's more about the power imbalance, the feeling that he's using me, making me feel small and yet somehow aroused by the fact that I'm helpless. It's opened a door in my mind that I didn't realize existed, a dangerous door that could lead to all sorts of wicked conclusions. I've always been pretty vanilla. It's not that I didn't want to explore other avenues, it's just that nobody ever presented anything out of the ordinary for me to explore. I have to be pushed a little to try something. I'm certainly not going to suggest it myself. That's why Zane's little games are so intriguing to me. I'm falling for them so quickly because they've broken up the staleness in my life and lit a spark inside of me. The bedroom is massive. I've never seen a bed quite as big as the one in Zane's room, and the view out the window is even more amazing. The sun is starting to go down now, and it's casting long shadows across a field of fresh green grass peppered with marble statues, high bushes, and flowers. I didn't realize how long it's been since I was enjoying a cup of coffee on my couch until now. I haven't even eaten anything, but I don't feel terrible hungry. It's difficult to have an appetite under this much stress. I'm sure swimming will help. Zane steps behind me, wrapping his large arms around my shoulders and squeezing me tightly against him. His grip is like steel, and his breath is hot against my neck. I can feel his muscles tensing, his body pressing into mine. He's so big, like a human wall, and he feels impenetrable. He's also dangerously attractive, and I can't deny that. Even though I hate him and everything he's doing to me, I can't stop thinking about the way his lips would feel against mine. It's been so long since someone has kissed me. "I'm sorry, Monroe," he says softly. "For what?" I ask, turning around and looking up at his strong face. It's like he's been carved from stone. "For taking your life away from you. For putting you in this position," he replies. "I don't have a choice, though. There's a lot at stake here. If I don't get that information, everything I've worked for will be destroyed. I know you're not ready to trust me, but I hope that eventually you can find it in yourself to work with someone who probably doesn't deserve it." "I understand," I reply softly. "Just give me time, okay?" He nods. "Whatever you need from me is yours." I laugh a little. "Well, I would like to go back to my house and get my stuff." "We'll go tomorrow," he replies, his voice quiet but firm. Kiro is working with a team of my best men to pin down Maxim and figure out what his deal is. I need to know how long he's been out of prison and what kind of forces he has before we go anywhere. "Tell me about Maxim," I say, met with a sudden surge of curiosity. "You really hate him, don't you?" He laughs through his nose. "Yes, I do hate him, but it seems as though you do too. You stabbed him." "I had to." "He tried to." I shudder as I remember the way that evil man touched me. I don't want to talk about it, actually. I just want to know more about what he means to you. I feel like I'm in the dark about too much. Zane's expression softens and he touches my arm lightly. "Listen, I'm not going to let anyone hurt you, especially not Maxim. He won't lay a finger on you ever again. That's a promise." "Okay," I reply, smiling a little. "I suppose I can trust you on that." "That's a start," he says, smiling back. "Now, let's get you into that swimsuit. We'll talk about Maxim when we get to the pool. I guess I do owe you an explanation." "You owe me a lot more than that, but that's a start," I tease, twirling around a few times as I float away from him. "Where's this bikini anyway? Something with full coverage, I hope." "Have you been to the dentist lately?" he asks, rubbing his chin. I look at the mirror on top of the dresser, checking my teeth. "Why? What's wrong?" "They're always talking about flossing. Now is your opportunity to make that happen," he says with a cheeky grin. He walks over to the dresser, opening the top drawer and pulling out bikini bottoms that might as well be 2 strings stitched together. Dental floss. Chapter 12. Monroe. Zane is already in the pool when I finally work up the courage to come outside and join him. It's too cold in the house to wander around in this frightfully tiny swimsuit any longer. I just hope the water is warm, because if it isn't, I might actually freeze to death in this ridiculous thing. I wrap my arms around my torso, hiding as much of my exposed skin as possible. "Oh, come on, you can't hide those gorgeous curves forever," Zane says, wading through the water toward me. "Come, enjoy yourself. Nobody can see us here. It's perfectly safe." "You can see me," I say, looking up and down the long, rectangular pool. There's a waterfall in one end, and it flows into the shallow end where a hot tub sits, bubbling away. There's also a massive deck, with a built-in grill, an outdoor kitchen, a fire pit, and a bar. It's so strange being somewhere so luxurious, and it doesn't feel right. The whole place makes me uncomfortable, but I can't exactly complain about it. There are much worse situations I could be in right now. Spending the night with a handsome Mafia boss isn't so bad, considering the alternatives. I'm going to take a dip in the hot tub. I need to thaw out a bit, I say, stepping off the edge and lowering myself into the water. "Good idea." "I'll join you," Zane replies, getting out of the pool and walking over. I glance at his body. He's wearing black swim shorts that cling to his thighs. His hips are narrow and the muscle on his chest and abs is unreal. I can't stop staring. "Like what you see?" he asks, smirking as he steps into the hot tub and sinks into the water across from me. "You're not the ugliest guy in the world. Maybe you should be the one wearing dental floss." He throws back his head and laughs, the tattoos on his neck stretching out over his throat. "Don't tempt me." His sense of humor puts me at ease a little, but I'm still nervous. My body is trembling, and not because I'm cold. "So, you wanted to know about Maxim," he says, running his hands through his hair and sitting back against the wall. "Let's start at the beginning. You know I'm Bratva, yes?" I nod. "Yes, that much is clear. Is he the same?" "Yes, but from a different family. A rival family, actually," Zane explains. "We've been at war with each other for years, decades even. Ever since our grandfathers were young men. It's an old conflict that nobody knows how it started. Probably to do with money." "It's always money," I mutter, shaking my head. I find it ridiculous, but I won't tell him that. I doubt he'd see things the same way. Money is so important to him, much more than silly little things like morals and values. "Not always," Zane says, his eyes wandering down to my chest. "Sometimes it's women." "Tell me more about Maxim. You said he was in prison," I say, bringing the conversation back to its original purpose. "Oh, yes, for multiple reasons. I thought he was gone forever, but they let him out. It's been a while, but his legal team is good. The trick is to have a criminal defense lawyer. The key word here being criminal." "Why did he go to jail?" I ask, leaning in a bit. "Tell me." Zane shrugs his big shoulders. Multiple homicides and a slew of other charges. Nothing especially unique, but it caught up with him because he's considerably more brazen than me about such things. I cock my head to the side, curious about Zane's history. Has he ever been to jail? Has he ever killed someone? It seems likely, especially since Kiro killed 2 of Maxim's men in my house, and Zane attempted to shoot Maxim. "Why are you looking at me like that?" he asks. "Like what?" "Like you're trying to see inside my head," he replies, moving some of the bubbles away from his chest with his palms. They're gathering against his tan skin, clinging to his thick chest hair. I can't help but to laugh. Even though he's a vicious Bratva boss, he's still boyish in some ways. He doesn't quite seem to know how to interact with a woman. He's defensive when he's not aggressively trying to get me to sleep with him. I put my hand on his arm, feeling the tightness of his skin over his muscle. "I'm just curious about you. You claim that Maxim is terrible, and I believe you, but what about the things you've done? The people you've killed?" He lets out a long sigh, like it's not something he wants to talk about, but I want to know. I'm not letting him off the hook that easily. "Tell me," I say, moving a little closer to him. My foot brushes his, and I pull it away, my cheeks flushing hot. I hope he can't tell. They're probably already pink from the warm water. He gives me a lopsided grin. You get to ask all the questions, and yet you won't answer any of mine. I'm an open book, I reply, spreading my arms out wide. What was on the flash drive? He asks, raising a challenging eyebrow. I roll my eyes. You could have asked me anything, and that's what you came up with. Come on, at least pretend to be interested in my boring little life. He leans in, his face close to mine, and puts his hand on my bare thigh. He runs his fingers slowly along my leg, tracing a line up and down. The sensations from his touch are intense, and my breath catches in my throat. He leans his other arm on the wall behind me, and then he's completely surrounding me. His masculine scent fills my nose, and the heat from his body is intoxicating. It's hotter than the water. It's hotter than anything I've experienced, and yet the burning feeling is like heaven, even though I know I'm in hell. Let me ask you a question then, something unrelated to all this business, he says, his voice low and husky. I can't find the words to reply, but I manage a nod. Why were you living in that house all by yourself? Don't you have any family, any guys in your life? Neither, I admit. Why not? You're smart and beautiful. On second thought, maybe that's why. Nobody is good enough for you, are they? His words are surprisingly insightful, but that doesn't make them any easier to hear. I don't know, I reply. Maybe. What would it take, Monroe? What would make you happy? Tell me. A man who respects me and makes me feel safe, I reply without thinking. The answer is immediate, as if it was lurking just under the surface of my consciousness, waiting to burst out. He laughs softly, shaking his head. There's only one way to get that, and you're already experiencing it. And what's that? Me, he replies, moving his face closer to mine. I can barely breathe, but I shake my head. You don't respect me. You don't make me feel safe. How could I respect you more? How could I keep you safer? You're in my home, the most secure building in the entire city, surrounded by guards and protected by me. I'd say you're doing pretty well for yourself, he argues, his lips only inches away from mine. I try to swallow the lump in my throat, but it's hard to do. It feels like I'm trying to choke down a tennis ball. Something in my stomach is buzzing, and between my thighs there's a pulsating feeling that's growing in intensity. Kiss me, Zane demands, his lips brushing against mine. My heart is beating so quickly that I can't even count the number of times it's pounding in my chest. This is what I've been missing, the thing I didn't know I needed until now. He's right that nobody has ever been good enough. Until now. I kiss him, throwing my arms around his neck and pulling him into me. His mouth opens, his tongue pushing into my mouth. The warmth of his body, his skin, his mouth, his tongue, all of it is perfect. Zane's strong arms wrap around me, holding me tightly against him. Our bodies are pressed together, and the hardness of his muscles feels amazing. It feels like safety, like comfort, and like passion. It's all wrapped up in one, and I never want to let him go. Come on, he growls, getting out of the hot tub. We can't do this in the pool. I laugh a little, climbing out after him and letting him lead me to the lounge chairs. There's a thick towel sitting on one of them, and he picks it up and wraps it around my shoulders before guiding me down.
The following scene is too spicy for YouTube. You may listen to the complete and uncensored version of this audiobook by going to bellakingbooks.com or by clicking the link in the description. Your book will now continue. Chapter 14. Zane. I don't know whether I've just pulled off the most incredible manipulation of all time, or I've gotten myself into even deeper trouble than I was in before. Time will tell, but until I get Monroe to spill the truth about what she saw on that flash drive, I have to continue this little charade. I can't say that I mind it, though. With her soft hair cascading over my skin as she rests her head on my chest and sleeps, I feel like I'm in heaven. Rarely do I feel this good. It wasn't just the sex either. There's something else about her that makes me feel. Well, I'm not really sure how I feel, but it's good. That's the best way I can describe it. But I need keep that feeling hidden from everyone, especially Monroe. Feelings are weaknesses in the Bratva. It's better to avoid them entirely, or you risk making crucial mistakes when the time comes for ruthless decision-making. After a while, she stirs, her eyes opening and her long eyelashes fluttering as she looks up at me. Her lips curl into a smile, and her cheeks turn a cute shade of pink. "Good morning," she says softly. "Good morning to you too, princess," I reply, running my hand over her smooth cheek. She lets out a small, satisfied sigh, closing her eyes again. "This is the most comfortable bed I've ever slept in," she mutters. "I'm glad you're enjoying it," I reply, petting her hair. "I think we're going to have a lot of good times in this bed." Her eyes flutter open again, and she lifts her head off my chest. My body feels heavier without her there. "Aren't we going to my house today?" "I need my stuff," she says. I sit up, propping myself up on the pillows. "We can go. I just need to give Kiro the heads up beforehand. You have some clothes already at the house you can change into. They were delivered while we were asleep. I got a text that they were left in the lounge downstairs." "Oh wow, that was fast," she replies, sitting up and letting the covers fall from her chest. She's absolutely gorgeous. I feel strange just staring at her, but even though I've seen my fair share of nudity, I'm addicted to looking at her body. I can't get enough. I tear my eyes off her, climbing out of bed and getting ready. Kiro is probably anticipating a message from me, and I've been radio silent since I claimed Monroe by the pool. "I'm going to go make some coffee and meet you in the living room," I say, walking out the door. "I'll make you a cup." "Better make it two," she calls out after me. If she drinks as much coffee as I do, I think a wedding is close at hand. How can she be so perfect? Even though we're from different worlds, we fit like a glove. I try not to get too caught up in it though, pulling out my phone and calling Kiro. He picks up on the second ring. "Good morning, sir." "Morning," I reply. "I need you to get a team together and ready to head out. We're going to the house where the flash drive was delivered, and we're going to grab as much of Monroe's things as possible. Just a quick trip." "Do you think Maxim's men are staking the place out?" he asks, an edge of concern to his voice. "Doubtful," I reply. "I have a feeling they've moved on, especially after the shooting. A couple of his guys are still dead in the house. Then, we should also watch out for the cops." "We're not going to be there for long," I assure him. "Just a quick visit. Nobody would have called the police anyway. Monroe says nobody visits her. She's a loner, apparently. You two would make a great pair." Then, he jokes. His words hit too close to home, but I hide the weird feeling I get in my gut. I just chuckle along with him, as though none of this is bothering me. It's not like the entire fate of the Bratva is on the line because of that stupid flash drive and a woman I really shouldn't be catching feelings for. "Meet me at the house," I grumble. "I'll be there shortly." "Yes, sir," Kiro replies. I hang up, slipping the phone back into my pocket and heading downstairs to the kitchen. The coffee machine has already brewed a pot, but it's old now. I usually wake up much earlier, so I have it running at 4 in the morning. It's almost noon. I dump the old coffee and start a new pot, making more than I usually would. For one, I need the extra caffeine, but also with Monroe around, I'm going to have to start making twice the amount of everything. It's not a problem, though. I have more money than I could ever spend, and I'll happily provide whatever she wants. Her company is a welcome distraction from the stress of my life. Monroe comes into the kitchen a minute later, dressed in a tight, low-cut shirt and jeans. The curves of her body are accentuated by her outfit, and her hair hangs loose around her shoulders. She honestly looks too good to be real. "Am I still dreaming?" I ask as I hand her a cup of coffee. "You look incredible." She blushes immediately, taking her cup and looking down at it to hide her face. "Thank you. These clothes are really nice. I appreciate it. Anything for you." She looks like she wants to say something, but she can't get the words out. She takes a sip of her coffee, moving over to the kitchen island and setting her cup down. "Something on your mind?" I ask, settling in across from her. She shrugs. "I guess I was just thinking about last night. A lot happened." "Indeed," I say, remaining neutral. I'm curious if this is just about the pool incident, or if she's decided to open up about the flash drive. I suppose I shouldn't get ahead of myself. Patience is a virtue. I just wanted to apologize, maybe, she says, sounding uncertain of herself. I'm surprised. For what? I ask. Just taking things too far. I think I got a little carried away, she says, taking another sip of her coffee. Sometimes the risk is worth it, I reply with a wink. While she might feel weird about what she did last night, I rather enjoyed it. I don't think I'm ever going to forget the beautiful look on her face when I finished inside of her. It was wrong, but it felt so damn good. So, you're not mad? She asks. I laugh. Why would I be? I'm just as guilty as you are, if not more. I just felt like I pushed you to do it, she says, her voice laced with guilt. Listen, I say, leaning in and pushing her hair behind her ear. Don't you ever feel bad about anything you do here? The last person who you should be apologizing to is a Bratva boss. I'm the bad guy. Period. I don't think you're that bad, she says, her cheeks flushing again. I laugh through my nose at her innocence, but I also appreciate hearing it. I've been the monster so long that I don't know how to be anything else. Monroe makes me want to change that, to be the man she thinks I am, the hero of her story. Come, I say, lifting my coffee from the island. Let's go get your stuff from the house. I already told Kiro that we're on the way. Her eyes widen, and she gulps down the rest of her coffee, pouring herself another cup before we leave. She might just drink more than I do, and she's about half my size. I'm impressed, if not a little terrified, too.
Chapter 15. Monroe. Even though it's been less than 24 hours, it feels like weeks since I've been to my house. Sometimes the decades happen in a day. I may have aged just as much in that time as well, but I haven't seen any gray hairs yet. Not on my head, at least. Zane looks good with the few that pepper his beard, but I'd rather not join him just yet. I think the contrast between our ages is cute. Frighteningly, I'm starting to find just about everything about us being together cute. Maybe it's the bonding mechanisms in my unfortunate primal brain, but I feel drawn to him after what we did by the pool. I feel attached in a way I didn't before. I hope I didn't do anything irreversible, but time will tell. All I'm really supposed to do in his presence is get comfortable enough to tell him what I saw on the flash drive, all those stocks and insider information that he wants so badly. As long as I believe he won't kill me afterward, I'll do it. Part of me already trusts him, but I'm not a complete fool, even if I've acted like one in the past. He won't be satisfied until I tell him. Then, there will be no reason for me to stay with him. He might just throw me away once he gets what he wants, and that thought frightens me more than I can admit. I want him to protect me, not use me. I want him to care about me, but that's the fool in me talking. Why would a powerful Bratva boss care about a regular woman like me? I'm nothing, and he's practically a god. As he drives to my house, I feel terrible inside, like I'm getting my hopes up for nothing. I suddenly doubt myself much more than I did before, even though he's made me feel pretty and special. It's hard to shake the feeling that he's using me. He's so attractive that he can probably have any woman he wants. The fact that he's obviously trying to manipulate me isn't exactly reassuring. It's a damn good act, but that's all it is. My life has become a play. The car ride is quiet, and I keep my head down, staring at the steaming cup of coffee in my hands. Zane doesn't say anything, and I'm not sure of his emotions. He's good at hiding things behind a blank expression. His stoicism is admirable, and if not for the little glimpses I catch when he lets his guard down, I wouldn't ever know what he was thinking. I want to know more about his past and the things that shaped him, but now doesn't feel like the time to start picking his brain. We just need to grab a few things and leave. I want this to be quick just as much as he does. Zane slows the car as we turn down the street to my house, and his eyebrows come together in a frown. He slows down even further, his eyes darting back and forth across the road ahead of us. What's wrong? I ask, leaning forward to see what he's looking at. He shakes his head, still frowning as he rolls the window on his side down an inch. He inhales deeply, continuing to shake his head. Do you smell that? Smell what? I ask, breathing in slowly and tasting the air. I can smell a faint trace of smoke, but it's barely there. Maybe Zane has a sensitive nose. Just smoke, right? Maybe a grill. No, it's not just that, he replies, his voice low and serious. Suddenly, it hits me. He's right. The smell is nothing like food on a grill. It's a sharp, acrid tang that stings my nostrils and makes my eyes water. The air is thick with the scent of burning wood, like a campfire gone out of control. I can smell the paint blistering and peeling off the walls, a chemical undertone that mingles with the earthy scent of charred brick. Someone's house is on fire, and as we roll over the hill, I see it in the distance. It's my house, engulfed in flames.
Chapter 16. Zane. There's nothing that can be done at this point. Both of us know it, but that doesn't stop the whirlwind of anger from being directed at me. It's not as though I'm the one who set the house on fire, but Monroe doesn't care. She only sees her life burning in front of her eyes. And I'm the one with the match in my hand. What the hell, Zane? She screams so loud my ears ring. I recoil as I stop the car in front of the burning house. It's already so engulfed in flames that it barely resembles a building anymore. It's more like a giant bonfire, melting the paneling off the side of the house next to it. I can feel the heat from inside the car, but the fury coming from Monroe is even hotter. She grabs my arm, her nails sinking into my skin as she stares daggers at me. What did you do to my house? You think I did this? I ask with a bitter laugh, jerking my arm away. Get real. Obviously it was Maxim. He's out to get both of us, and he's reckless about it too. He's always been that way. She rolls her eyes. Oh yes, sure, blame it all on Maxim. That's awfully convenient now, isn't it? I sigh, running my hands over my face and leaning back against the seat. Kiro's car is parked just a few meters down from ours, and there's a group of men already standing by the house. It does look like I'm the one behind this, but I had nothing to do with it. I'm certain it was Maxim, taunting me with a fire because he knows my family history. He's trying to hit me where it hurts, but I don't feel pain anymore. All I feel is anger for what he's done to my precious Monroe. She looks out the window, tears streaking down her face as she watches the fire. Her hands are balled into fists and she's trembling. It's a heartbreaking scene, but I don't know how to console her. I'm sorry, Monroe, I whisper, putting my hand on her shoulder. I'm going to make sure Maxime pays for this. Sure, you and your Bratva buddies. I believe you, she replies sarcastically. I clench my jaw, letting out a long sigh through my teeth. There's no getting through to her. She's in shock. I can't blame her, but she's lashing out at the wrong person. Kiro, I call out, getting out of the car and slamming the door shut. I walk toward him, and he turns to face me. What the hell happened? I ask, glancing over at the house. Maxim's men did it. We assume, Kiro replies. We arrived here shortly before the two of you. There's not much more to say about it, honestly. We can't save the house. It's fine. She'll be fine, I mutter, looking back at the car. Monroe is sitting in the passenger seat, her head leaned back against the headrest. Her eyes are closed, but she's no longer crying. She looks angry again, trying to hold it all in to unleash upon me when I return to the car. I'm almost scared to go back. Her eyes flutter open, and she looks right at me. Who's going to pay for the damage? She yells through the windshield. I shake my head, looking back at Kiro. We'll need to keep an eye on her. I'm keeping her at my estate for the time being. I doubt we're going to get any information out of her for a while. Not after this ordeal. Kiro gives me a doubtful look, glancing back at the car. Sir, respectfully, there are ways of getting information out of people. I grab him, anger surging through me. My fingers curl around his shirt collar, and I pull him so close that our noses touch. What exactly are you suggesting? I growl. Monroe is a human being, not one of Maxim's low-life minions. You will treat her with respect. I will not hear a single word otherwise. Kiro raises his eyebrows, obviously surprised by my sudden burst of emotion. Yes, sir, he says, swallowing hard. I'm sorry, I say, releasing his shirt. I'm just frustrated. I'm allowed to have feelings about this. There's a lot on the line. Of course he agrees, but he looks supremely uncomfortable, like he witnessed something he knows he wasn't supposed to. I'm going to take her home, I continue, ignoring the awkwardness. Keep an eye on Maxim, and let me know if you hear anything. This is going to end very soon. He's not going to eat away with this garbage. Not on my watch. Kiro nods, looking away. Yes, sir. I leave him behind, walking back to the car and opening the door. Monroe refuses to move, staring straight ahead and refusing to acknowledge my presence. We're going to go back to my house, darling, I say gently, placing my hand on her thigh. Don't call me that, she hisses. I pull my hand back, a strange feeling of emptiness creeping up on me. I've never felt like this before, and I don't know how to handle it. It would be easier for me to be angry at her, just like I'm angry at Maxim, but she hasn't done anything wrong. She's just a woman stuck in the wrong place at the wrong time, and things just keep getting worse for her. I don't want to make them worse. In fact, it's the exact opposite. I want to make things better, but I don't know how. If she's not going to listen to me, and I can't use physical force, then what the hell am I supposed to do? I turn the car back on, pulling out onto the road. There are sirens in the distance, the fire trucks and cops arriving much too late to fix anything. That's always how it is, in my experience. They come to clean up the mess, not to prevent anything. I glance at Monroe, hoping to see some semblance of emotion on her face. She's blank, her eyes locked onto the road. Are you all right? I ask. What does it matter? What's done is done. You don't have to pretend like you care anymore, she replies. I grit my teeth. She's got the wrong idea, and it's starting to frustrate me. Taking my anger out on her would be a mistake, but it's tempting. If she's the bad guy, then that means I don't have to feel so guilty about everything that happens to her. I can tuck those emotions away somewhere they won't bother me again. That's not what I want, though. I want to hold her, to comfort her. I want her to know that I'm here for her, but she won't allow it. Look, I say, trying to sound sympathetic. I understand that you're upset, but… No, she interrupts. You don't. You're not capable of understanding. You can't relate to this kind of thing, and you never will. Her words hit home, and they hurt. She doesn't realize how close all this hits home to me, how Maxim specifically chose this method of warfare to mess with my head. He wants to destabilize me so that he can take everything for himself. Somehow, he's even managed to turn Monroe against me. The car falls silent again, and the drive back to my house feels like an eternity. When we finally arrive, I park the car in the driveway and get out, slamming the door. Monroe does the same, rushing ahead of me and heading straight to the door. I watch her from behind, her hair flowing in the breeze. She's so beautiful, and I hate seeing her like this. It hurts, and I've never hurt like this before. It's unfamiliar and unwanted, and it's starting to consume me. I need to let off some steam, and there's only one way I know how that's not going to ruin everything for both of us. Go to the bedroom. I growl as she flings the front door open. The following scene is too spicy for YouTube. You may listen to the complete and uncensored version of this audiobook by going to bellakingbooks.com or by clicking the link in the description. Your book will now continue.
Chapter 17. Monroe. I've made my fair share of mistakes in this lifetime, but the worst thing I've ever done is fall in love with the Bratva boss. Not only that, but I've let him finish inside me twice now, and we've only known each other for 2 days. My life is officially off the rails. The only thing that gives me any kind of reassurance is the fact that, despite the attempts made on my life, I'm still alive. Zane has managed to keep me safe, and I have no reason to believe that he won't continue to do so. He hasn't said much about the fire since we got back to his house, but I can see that it's bothering him. He's moody in a way that he wasn't before, and even after we made up, he continues to pace around the house with a cigar clenched between his pearly white teeth and a scowl on his handsome face. It bothers me more than I'm willing to admit to him. I feel like if anyone is suffering, it should be me. What has gotten him so worked up about the house fire? Surely he can't be taking Maxim's actions this personally. He wasn't like this before, even when the flash drive was destroyed. I'm starting to feel a little bit guilty for not telling him what's there, but our relationship is still developing. It would be like telling someone you're on a first date with how much money you have in your bank account. I'd prefer to keep my hand to myself until all the cards have been dealt, which basically requires Maxim to be dead or in prison again. Zane walks into the living room where I'm curled up on the couch with a blanket. I'm reading a book that's not mine, and it's a nice distraction. It's something normal, like I'm back at my house with my own life. I'm not being chased by a lunatic or manipulated by a dangerous Bratva boss. I'm just a normal person. I have some information about Maxim that might interest you, Zane says, sitting down on the couch across from me with his cigar clenched so tightly it's about to break in half. What is it? I ask, putting my book down. I'm not sure how something about Maxim could interest me, but I'm open to listening. The more information I have about what's going on, the better. Kiro and a couple of our guys located a business that's recently come under investigation by the police for arms trafficking. Apparently Maxim's name is attached to the lease, but that's about all that ties him to the place. He's starting over again with the same thing he was doing before, which is beyond stupid, if you ask me. Okay, so we're going to break into the building and see what's there. You can stay here while we handle it. I narrow my eyes. What good is that going to do? You said yourself that Maxim isn't really tied to the place other than on the lease. I feel like this is just really personal for you, and you're looking for a reason to jump in and get yourself killed over it. Wow, he says, pulling his head back. Where did that come from? From your weird mood, I reply, running my finger across the front cover of my book. Something isn't right, and I can tell. What are you, some kind of witch? He asks like he actually believes that I might be one. Just a woman who you continue to underestimate. Listen, he says, sighing and taking his cigar from his mouth. Maxim has already caused me enough misery. He's killed some of my men, ruined countless plans, and almost killed me multiple times. This has always been very personal, and he's escalating things with the fire. That wasn't just about destroying evidence, Monroe. It was about sending a message. He's taunting me. And you're falling for it, I reply. You're letting him get inside your head. It's just a fire, and my house wasn't all that valuable anyway. After all this is over, you can buy me a new one. I flash him a grin to let him know that I'm joking, but his face remains rigid. I'll buy you 1,000 houses if that's what you desire, but I'm still going to destroy Maxim. My parents died in a house fire, and Maxim is aware of that, so excuse me if I'm overreacting. My heart sinks. Oh, I didn't know. I'm sorry. It's fine. Don't worry about it. That was a long time ago and you're right. It shouldn't bother me anymore. The fact is that it does, and I can't change that. So I'm going to deal with Maxim and then things will be okay. I shake my head, feeling helpless. There's no reasoning with him. And even though I want to believe that he'll be okay, I don't think it's going to end well for anyone involved. Can I go? I ask. Go where? To this place. I'd rather be with you than sitting here worrying, I explain. He chuckles, shaking his head. Absolutely not. It's far too dangerous. You can stay here. And what if Maxim decides to torch this house too? I ask. I'd rather be with you than sitting around here by myself. He's not going to burn down my house. He can't even get in, and he most certainly doesn't know where I live. I make sure to keep those details very private, Zane replies defensively. He puffs out his chest. Besides, my guards would kill him in an instant if he set foot on this property. Why don't you just send Kiro over to the business? He can handle it, I suggest, not wanting to give up this battle yet. I'll make you a deal, he says, rotating his cigar between his fingers and leaning in. If you give me the information on the flash drive, I'll stay here with you. I scoff. Not funny. I'm not trying to be. Well, either you're trying to be funny or you're being an asshole. I'll let you decide, but I'm not talking about the flash drive right now. It's pretty much the only thing I have left since my house burned down, I say, pulling the blanket up to my neck. What do you want, then? Money, he asks, tossing his cigar into an ashtray and standing up. You want a new house? Maybe a car? A couple of purses and some designer clothes. He snaps his fingers as he walks up to me, his tall figure casting a dark shadow over my face that makes the room 10 degrees colder. Anything you want is yours. I shake my head, feeling the pressure building between us. This could be explosive. The only thing I want is something I can't have, I say quietly. And what is that? He asks, raising a thick eyebrow. I take a sharp breath through my nose, my old life back. He sighs, shaking his head as he turns away from me. I don't know what to do with you, he mutters as he walks out of the room. I want to throw my book at the back of his stupid head.
Chapter 18. Zane. Monroe needs time to cool down. And I need to find out everything I can about Maxim and his new business. If I don't get to him before the police do, he's going to end up back in prison. I won't let him off the hook that easily. Jail would be too easy for a moron like him. He might even enjoy himself there, playing checkers and taking advantage of the medical care as he approaches old age. I won't let him live long enough to enjoy anything but his last cigar. I own the keys to this city, but I'll burn it to the ground myself if it means getting rid of Maxim. This just got terribly personal. Kiro meets me with 4 of our men outside the business supposedly leased by Maxim. It's an unassuming brick building in the middle of downtown, far too corporate to arouse suspicion of being anything but another boring, faceless office. It makes me wonder how the police sniffed this place out as a potential weapons trafficking spot. Either Maxim is selling guns to angry businessmen who just got laid off, or someone in his ranks is a rat. If it's the latter, I'd like to know who it is. They could lead me straight to him and end this on a Tuesday afternoon. Tima sent a messenger to the office this morning. Kiro grunts as we walk along the side of the building. That's news I should have been given when it happened, I say, feeling a prickle of heat on the back of my neck. What did he say? Not much. He asked a few questions about the package, to which I answered that we had everything. Then he left, Kiro explains. Not the worst outcome. I mutter. I do wish that Tima would call me himself instead of sending people all the time. At least they got the address correct this time. Not much to do with the other one. Kiro replies with a chuckle. Another prickle of heat on the back of my neck, but I'm sensible enough to ignore it. It's time to examine Maxim's business before someone starts wondering why a bunch of men in suits are circling the ground floor. I leave a watchman out front, circling around back with Kiro and the other men. There's a rolling garage door in the back, which is unusual for an office building. My guess is that they're loading vehicles with firearms directly from this place, which is a bold move to make in the middle of downtown. Maxim believes that being bold makes him better. He likes to show off, but that's the very reason why I have the upper hand on him. If you bang on your chest and scream into the wind, eventually you're going to get hit by a bullet from someone who is tired of the noise. Let's break the lock, I say, crouching next to the garage door. With pleasure, Kiro replies. His hand grips the padlock and he yanks on it. It breaks, flying out of the loop that held it closed and landing a few feet away on the ground. I'm impressed by his strength, but then again, that's why he's my right-hand man. I grab the garage door, rolling it up. Inside is a storage room with a few boxes and crates stacked against the wall. They're labeled in Russian, and the letters are the same ones on the flash drive. It's not much, Kiro observes, stepping inside and looking around. I'd imagine the real merchandise is somewhere else after the police caught wind of this place. Yes, of course, I reply, kicking one of the boxes. He's an idiot, but he's not a total moron. Maybe we'll find something else, though. Like what? He asks as the other men come in. Anything, I grumble. And then we burn the place down. We'll give him a taste of his own medicine. Kiro gives me a funny look, and the men exchange glances. Sir, with all due respect, that might not be the best idea. We don't want to make ourselves too obvious, Kiro says. The police already know about this. They'll be down here in a heartbeat. I said, burn it to the ground. Live a little. Have some fun, I reply, thumping his chest with the back of my fist. He smirks. Well, when you put it like that, I can have the guys go and grab some gas and a few matches. Maybe a blanket to get the fire going. No need, I reply, matching his smirk with one of my own. I already brought everything we need. Then, let's get this party started, he says. I turn and walk back outside. We're far enough away from the main road that no one will notice, and even if they do, there's nothing here that can tie us to this crime. The police will think that Maxim did it to hide what he was doing here, but Maxim will know that I was behind it. I don't want my little friend to go to jail. I want him dead. Once the men have emptied the boxes and searched the area to no avail, we drag a bundle of old bedsheet and a can of gasoline inside to get the fire started. It feels like setting up a haunted house, tossing the sheets over everything, but the intoxicating smell of fresh gas tells another story. Once everything is in place, I order the men out, and I let Kiro have the honor of lighting the first match. It's a long one that I use for the candles at home, capable of burning for almost a minute before the fire eats at the end of the matchstick and burns your fingers. Kiro almost breaks it when he strikes it against the box. Gas is a bit explosive when lit, so only a moment after the match is tossed into the building do the flames burst through the windows and start crawling up the sides. It's beautiful, but I can't stand around admiring our work. We have to get out of here before someone calls the police. Plus, I want to get home before Monroe gets herself in trouble. There's no telling what she might be up to with free reign of my house.
Chapter 19. Monroe. When the cat's away, the mouse comes out to play. I haven't seen any of Zane's guards inside the house since I came here. They're all outside, pacing around the yard with rifles on their chests like this is a military complex. I don't know if it makes me feel safer or more like a prisoner. Perhaps a safe prisoner. Either way, this prisoner is about to discover all the secrets hidden in this giant mansion. With how large it is, there are bound to be things that Zane doesn't want anyone to know. He's a powerful man with a past, and his home holds the memories of everything that's ever happened here. There might literally be skeletons in the closet. I start upstairs in the main hallway, looking for a locked door or a hidden passage. There are a lot of doors, but none of them are locked, and every single one is exactly what it's supposed to be. He doesn't use any of these rooms, but they're still furnished and ready to be used. It's odd. I move on to the next floor, looking for anything that might give me a clue about who Zane is or what he does when no one's around. There's not a single piece of trash in this place. It's like he never eats, and his only hobby is drinking coffee and smoking cigars. Maybe he's just not home that often. I can see him being out a lot with the kind of work he does. The more I explore, though, the more I realize that there are rooms that he uses, and he seems to be in them quite often. The library, for instance, has a carpet that's so worn down from his shoes that I'm certain he spends every afternoon pacing there. But that's not the only place I find wear and tear. There's a door that has a shiny brass handle, like it's been polished by years of daily use. This room actually is locked, so I can't get inside without a key. Or without picking the lock. It doesn't take me long to find a paperclip in one of the drawers downstairs. I come back and jiggle the clip around inside the lock until I hear the mechanism pop open. The door swings open, and all I can see is darkness. My hand slides along the wall for a light switch, but there isn't one. The only source of light is the door behind me, so I'll have to feel my way around until I can figure out where the lights are. I step into the room, feeling the soft carpet underneath my feet. I have a bad feeling, like I shouldn't be in here. There's this strange smell, oil and leather, but I can't figure out what exactly it is. The room is quiet, the silence broken only by the sound of my breathing. My hands brush against a desk, and I lean forward, trying to get a sense of what's in here. Everything is pitch black, but it feels like an office. The leather smell is quite strong here, but it's more toward one corner of the room. I pause at the desk, feeling around for a lamp or a light switch, but there isn't anything. My fingertips trace the top, and I realize it's a type of stone, maybe a marble slab or something equally as expensive. My hands slide down to the edge of the desk, and a wave of fear washes over me. I can hear my heart beating faster in my chest, and I'm sweating cold and sticky. I swallow, feeling a lump forming in my throat. I'm not alone in here. I see you've found my torture room, Zane's voice rumbles from behind me. I wasn't expecting him to be home so soon. He said he was going to investigate Maxim's business, but he's back and he smells like gasoline. What the hell is going on? My entire body is shaking in the darkness as I watch the large shape of Zane's muscular body move across the only source of light coming from the open door. He casts a long shadow down the carpeted floor, one that crawls up my legs and puts a chill down my spine. I let out a nervous laugh. Zane, I didn't realize you were already home. I seem to have gotten lost. There's a long silence and he doesn't move at all. You're not lost, darling, he finally says, his voice deep and throaty. You're exactly where you belong. A red light comes on in the room, and suddenly, everything becomes crystal clear. This isn't an office, or even a torture room. It's a dungeon, and I've walked right up to a polished wooden bondage table.
The following scene is too spicy for YouTube. You may listen to the complete and uncensored version of this audiobook by going to bellakingbooks.com or by clicking the link in the description. Your book will now continue. Chapter 22. Zane. I truly believed that Monroe would trust me after what we did in my special room, but she's refused to answer my questions about the flash drive, even 2 full weeks after I brought her to my house. How can she not trust me? I've given her everything, and yet she continues to avoid me. It's only gotten worse. She's been distant, and I haven't been home much to address her behavior. Maybe she's getting stir-crazy in the house. It's literally making her sick to be at home all the time. She's ran to the bathroom twice when we were having breakfast to throw up, but she's refused to have a doctor come here to check on her. It's frustrating, but I haven't been given the push I need to confront her until today. Kiro has come up with a full report on Maxim. It includes weapons trafficking locations, the names of several of his key associates, and a key date and time that potentially spells the end of his resurgence. All I really need to seal the deal and ensure we all walk away from this with much more money in our pockets and much less weight on our shoulders is the data from that flash drive. As everything comes to a head, the only thing that appears to stand in my way is a small but ferocious woman named Monroe. And Jesus, I'm crazy about her, but that doesn't mean I can abandon everything I've worked for just so she can drag this flash drive debacle out for an eternity. It's time to confront her, but I'm going to wait until after my meeting with Kiro. I want to know everything before I pull the trigger and potentially blow everything up in my face. I pass Monroe in the library on my way out to meet with Kiro at a local bar. It's owned by the Bratva, so nobody is going to be compromised there, but Monroe doesn't like it when I come back smelling like booze and cigar smoke. She says it's unhealthy, but I'm not sure why she would be concerned about my health. She's reading a new book when I poke my head into the library, something I'm unfamiliar with because it's out of the dust jacket. It's blue with gold lettering on the spine, but I can't make out the title from this distance. Whatever it is, she doesn't feel comfortable with me knowing. She slams it shut the moment she sees me, tucking it under another book on the table beside her before jumping to her feet. Zane, she exclaims, and she sounds slightly out of breath. Are you going somewhere? Perhaps, I reply, stepping fully into the room and examining her. The more I look, the more I realize she's been caught doing something she doesn't want me to know about. She has the same flushed cheeks and big eyes as when I caught her snooping. What is she up to this time? I'd like to know before I leave. Monroe sidesteps in front of the table she put her book on, pursing her lips in what appears to be an attempt at a smile. It's far from genuine, though, and I have to stifle an eye roll. Does she think I'm stupid? Where are you going? I hope it's not something to do with Maxim again, she says. Her words sound scripted, like she recited them in her head a few times before finally saying them. I shake my head. No, I'm meeting with Kiro. And what are you doing? She shrugs. Just some reading. About what? I ask, trying to look behind her at the table. She looks over her shoulder, shifting again to make sure her book is hidden from view. It's just some book one picked off the shelf. Sometimes I do that, when I'm bored. I'll just pick a random book and start flipping through it. I step toward her, and her expression drops. Let me see the book, I say, my voice deep in my chest. I want to know what you're reading. She swallows hard, reaching behind her and pulling the top one from the stack. It's not the same one she was reading. I glare at her as she holds it out to me. Please, Monroe. Let's not pretend like I'm an idiot. Show me the book you were reading. It's just a book, she says sheepishly, putting the decoy one back. Right, so show it to me. She sighs, grabbing the blue book with the gold lettering. I was just curious, that's all. There's nothing wrong with that, she says as she hands it to me. I read the title out loud. Child Development Stages. She gives me a guilty look, and my heart skips a beat. I'm holding the book in my hand, looking down at the gold lettering, but it feels like I'm looking at it through a telescope from 100 miles away. My throat is dry, and my hands are clammy. This isn't happening. I blink hard, and I can feel my heart pounding in my ears. A wave of heat rushes over me, and it's like I'm burning up from the inside. What does this mean? I ask, my voice coming out shaky. What do you mean? She asks, furrowing her brow. What does the book mean? I told you I was just curious. I scoff, shaking my head. No. You're lying to me, and I don't like it. You're reading a book about children, which means you're pregnant. Her eyes widen, and she looks surprised, but I know better. She's not shocked that I discovered the truth so quickly. Monroe, you're pregnant with my child, I growl. Why did you hide this from me? Where has your trust gone? Have I not proven to you that you can trust me? I'm not pregnant. She blurts, but guilt is painted all over her face. Yes, you are, I insist, tossing the book onto the table. You're a terrible liar, Monroe. Now, tell me the truth. Why are you reading a book about child development? How long have you known? I don't know anything, she replies, shaking her head as tears come to her eyes. I haven't taken a test yet. It's possible I'm not even pregnant. She might still be in denial, but I'm not. It all adds up. We've been having sex without a condom for weeks, and now she's starting to feel sick IT morning. She refused a doctor because she was scared of what they'd tell her, of what they'd tell me. More likely. She doesn't want me to know that I'm going to be a father, and it breaks my heart. What do I have to do to gain her trust? I've tried everything, and yet I've failed. It makes me feel like less of a man, not worthy of her affection. I can take a test, Monroe says softly, putting her hand on my arm. I was scared, you understand, Zane. This is all very new to me, and I'm terrified of what it means for my future. For our future. Have you even considered our future? I ask, unable to hide the anger in my voice. Or are you just saying that so I don't freak out? It's all I think about, Zane, she insists. I raise me hand, and she flinches. Oh, but you're still scared of me. You think I would hurt you, after everything I've done to protect you. I've been beyond patient with you, even with millions of dollars on the line, and this is how you react. I'm disappointed. You're disappointed, she asks angrily, taking a step back and bumping into the table. I should be the one who is disappointed, Zane. You took me from my life, and now you act like I owe you something. But I don't owe you anything. Not the flash drive data, not my love, and not the baby if I have one. Don't say that, I growl, grabbing her arm and pulling her toward me. The only person I want is you. I won't let you leave. I don't care about the flash drive anymore if it means I lose you. She dissolves against me, sobbing into my chest. I didn't mean it, she says between sobs. I wanted to tell you so bad. I'm sorry. I feel like the bad guy now, but that's who I've always been. I'm too tough on her when she needs me to be soft. I don't know how to be anything else, and it's no wonder she doesn't trust me. Don't apologize, I say, holding her shoulders as she cries. Look at me. Don't apologize. I'm the one who needs to say sorry. I've been far too hard on you. That's not what you deserve. She looks up at me, her beautiful eyes glistening with a mixture of sorrow and hope. It hurts me deeply to see her sad like this, and even more so because I know I'm the cause of it. I should be better. I have to be. I think I should take a pregnancy test so we know for sure, Monroe says, wiping the tears from her eyes. I think that's the best thing to do. I nod slowly. I agree, but just know that I support you either way. We're in this together now, whatever happens. Her lips twitch upward in a smile. This time it's genuine. Thank you. I needed to hear that. I think it's time we talked about something else too. Something very important. I pull my head back, confused as to what she's talking about. What is it? I ask. Her smile fades, and her eyes become serious. The flash drive. I wasn't lying when I said I know what's on it.
Chapter 23. Monroe. I've been waiting longer than I really should, but now that I've admitted that I'm potentially having a baby with Zane, I might as well tell him everything. I'm in it for the long run, whether that was my initial choice or not. It doesn't matter. I have to see this whole thing through to the end. That means having trust in Zane, even though it's difficult for me to trust anyone. I've always been a loner, but maybe that's why I fit so well with Zane. He's a loner too, and maybe that's something we can be together. I have hope now that he's accepted my pregnancy, so I'm ready to tell him about the flash drive. I don't think there's any harm in him knowing something that's going to make him a bunch of money. I might even take him up on his offer to replace my house with some of the cash he makes. Then again, I've grown fond of this one, and I enjoy living with him. It's almost like we're a married couple. I look down at my hand, considering what it would be like to have a ring on my finger. A month ago I would have laughed at the idea, but today I'm willing to entertain it. With Zane, it feels like anything is possible. Don't tease me, Zane says, breaking me out of my little fantasy. I look up at him, shaking my head. Oh, I'm not teasing you. I'll admit that when I got the package I was too curious not to open it. He smirks. You are a curious girl, aren't you? Now that I think about it, all the trouble I've ever gotten myself into has been from being too curious. I have no self-control when it comes to stuff like that. Sometimes I even flip to the back of the book to know how it ends. I am curious, but that's why we're together in the first place, so you can thank me for it later. Something about me you might not know, though, is that I have photographic memory. I remember everything I say with a proud smile. He narrows his eyes. Just how much of that information do you remember? I said I remember everything, so I remember everything I saw, I reply, feeling a tad smug that I finally have some power in this relationship. For once, I have the upper hand. I scrolled through a few dozen lines before I closed the file. There was a lot of information about some pretty well-known stocks. He takes a sharp breath, and I can see the excitement swirling in his icy cold eyes. You think you could write it all down? I nod. I can do that. Give me a pen and paper, and I'll show you. Zane literally runs out of the room when I say that, coming back a few moments later with sweat on his forehead and a pen in his hand. Just write it in the back of one of the books. I don't know where the paper is, he blurts. I take the pen, tapping it against my chin. You're awfully excited about this. He puts his hands together like he's praying. Darling, you have no idea how much this means to me. You're saving my ass right now. I should make him beg, but he looks cute when he's all excited. I never thought I'd have a Bratva boss so eager to know what I have to say, but here he is, standing in front of me like a hopeful child who's about to unwrap their birthday present. It makes me think of what our child might look like. I'm already picturing him being a boy, with Zane's eyes and perhaps a little of my curiosity. I wouldn't be able to resist him. I'd hold him in my arms every night, singing to him, until he fell asleep. My imagination takes me all kinds of places as I begin writing down the information that Zane so strongly desires. He stands over me the entire time, his eyebrows drawn together in a concentrated frown, studying each mark of the pen as I write in the back of the child development book. Nobody would ever think to look there for insider trading data. The flash drive was just a little too obvious. Zane's phone rings before I'm finished, and he steps away for a moment, coming back as I write the last line I can remember clearly. I look up at him as I put down the pen. I'm finished. He presses his lips together and nods. I'd like you to bring what you have to the meeting. Kiro is waiting. What's this meeting about? I ask, closing the book and tucking it under my arm. Maxim, he replies, putting his hand around my waist and leading me out of the library. I look up at him. You said it didn't involve Maxim. I didn't want to worry you. We're not doing anything crazy today. Kiro just has some information he wants to share about Maxim's operations. We have to take him out, eventually, so the more information, the better. It's all about data, I say, squeezing the book tighter under my arms. That's correct. Everyone thinks the Bratva is about violence, but it has far more to do with intelligence. More brains than brawn, but you do need both. I'm the brains, you're the brawn, I say, pinching him in the ribs. He doesn't even flinch. Instead, he pulls me closer to him, planting a kiss on my lips when we come to the front door. You might just be both, he says, putting a hand on my belly. Motherhood isn't for the weak. That's assuming I'm pregnant. We won't know until I take a test, I say, putting my hand over his. His skin is warm, and I love the way the veins on the back of his hand feel. He shrugs. Even if you're not, I want to make sure you're ready when the day does come. Now, let's go. Kiro is waiting for us. He holds the door open, and we walk out to the car. The driver comes out of the car and opens the back door for me, and I slide into the seat. Zane gets in next to me, and his scent floods the inside of the car. I didn't think I could be any more attracted to him, but after what he said about the day of my pregnancy coming makes me want to guarantee we're having a baby. If it weren't for the driver, I'd already have my legs behind my ears. We get to the bar in under 15 minutes. It's a quaint little place, but the inside is nicer than the outside would lead you to believe. It has an old-world charm about it, the kind of place where everyone knows your name. Apparently, you need to be part of the Bratva to get in, so I suppose everyone does know your name around here. Zane, a gruff voice says the moment we enter. It's Kiro. He's sitting in the corner of the room with another man. They're both holding glasses of beer and smoking cigars. Put those out, Zane says as he walks me to the table. We have company today, and I think you're going to like what she has to say. Kiro stands up, plucking the cigar from his mouth and ashing it in a golden bowl on the table. The other man follows suit. Andre is head of intel for the organization, Kiro explains to me, gesturing to his colleague. He's responsible for most of the information we've gathered on Maxim. Andre ashes his cigar and holds out his hand. I look to Zane, who nods, so I shake Andre's hand. It's stiff and cold, like he's had his hands wrapped around his drink the entire time he's been here.
Chapter 24. Zane. I wasn't expecting to be told that Maxim is in the hospital, but Andre is certain he checked in under a fake name 2 days ago. According to the sparse records that could be recovered from the hospital's computer system, he's dealing with a serious infection from the stab wound he received when he broke into Monroe's house. That means he's vulnerable, but we can't just go charging into a hospital and gun him down in his room. We have to play this a little more strategic, waiting until he's released to get the jump on him. Everything feels like it's happening all at once, but I'm able to find order in the chaos. First, I need Monroe to hand the book and the blessing of her photographic memory over to Kiro so we can begin investing the money Tima entrusted me with. Once that's done, Monroe needs to take a pregnancy test so we can settle this once and for all. If she's pregnant, I've already decided to buy her a ring. There's no arguing with that either. I'm not going to have our child born to unwed parents. The Bratva demands an official union. Then there's Maxim. He's the only person in my life that genuinely threatens all that I've built. If I want Monroe to be safe and our baby to have a healthy childhood, Maxim needs to go. And it won't be to jail. I have a very special spot for him at the local cemetery. I believe his cousin is already buried there. After we leave the bar, I make sure Andre has the book of information Monroe provided for him. I want him to invest every dime he can get his hands on, because the information is only going to be valid for a short period of time. The longer we wait, the less money we will make. With the book safely in Andre's hands, Monroe and I go home. It's not a long drive, but it feels like forever knowing that she's about to take the pregnancy test. The stop at the pharmacy is even worse because I keep feeling like Maxim is going to show up and gun us both down. I've been too paranoid to let Monroe out of the house for an entire month, but I want her to be a little more involved. It's about trust, after all. Monroe picks a pregnancy test out, I pay for it, and then we're on our way again. She holds the plastic bag so tightly in her hand that her knuckles turn white, but I don't comment on it. I know telling her to relax is not going to do anything but stress her out further. Besides, I'm also stressed out, and nothing is going to solve it until we know the results of the pregnancy test. When we arrive home, she goes straight to the bathroom and shuts the door. I can hear her moving around in there, but it feels like it's taking an eternity for her to pee on the stick. I'm stuck with my thoughts, and that's the last place I want to be right now. I know I can handle being a father because I've handled everything life has thrown at me so far, but it's a lot to prepare for in just 9 months. Monroe is a good woman, though. She'll be a great mother, and I think it's best for me to follow her lead on this one. I've always been the boss, but when someone else is capable of handling something better, I think their opinions should take priority over mine. It's more a matter of supporting her efforts than leaning on her too much. I'm already thinking of ways to help. I should build a playhouse outside by the garden, but not too close to the flowers or a bee might sting the child. There should be ample space for them to explore, but I need to make sure to cover any sharp corners inside and under no circumstances allow them to have access to any of the guns in the house. I have to rub my forehead just thinking about it. There are so many guns, some in places I've forgotten. This house is suitable for a small child. We might even have to move. No, I tell myself, shaking my head. We won't have to move. I have more money than I can spend in a lifetime, so I'll just hire a team of professional decorators and child-proof the entire house. It'll be a big project, sure, but I have 9 months to get it done, and it's not like the baby will start walking right away. I'm done, Monroe announces, stepping out of the bathroom. She has the test in her hand, and it's facing down. Her expression is unreadable, and my heart jumps into my throat in anticipation of what she's about to say. I've gotten so invested in the idea of having a child with her that the thought of her not being pregnant makes me more worried than if she is. What does it say? I ask, bending down to try to get a look at the underside of the test. She turns the stick over, revealing a bright pink plus sign. My knees go weak, and I lean back against the wall, unable to support myself. My heart is beating so fast that I feel like I'm going to pass out. This is far too dramatic for a Bratva, but I'm no longer just a man with 100 ruthless killers working for me. I'm a father now. Monroe gasps. Are you okay? She asks, grabbing my arm. I look at her, blinking a few times as the shock wears off. I'm fine. Just a little lightheaded. She laughs a little. We can pretend like I'm not pregnant for a while to prevent you from having a heart attack. I'm not trying to kill the father of my baby. I'm fine, really, I insist, pulling her toward me as I try to stand up straight. My knees wobble, but they hold. I cup her chin in my hands and pull her into a kiss so deep that she almost drops the pregnancy test. Her body sinks into mine, and I feel unified. This is what real trust feels like. This is the future I want to have. I know things will only get better. Let's get married. I whisper against her lips. She laughs again. We can't do that, she says, but there's a playful tone to her voice. Why not? I ask, pulling back a little. You haven't even told me that you love me, she says, her eyes meeting mine. In that moment, I know that I do love her, and I should tell her straight away, but I don't want her to believe that I'm saying all of this just because of the baby. I take her hands, look into her eyes, and then my phone rings. I take the opportunity to avoid saying what I need to say by answering it. Just one moment, I mutter, reaching into my pocket and pulling out the phone. Zane here. What's going on? Why are you calling? Kiro's voice comes through a wall of noise. It sounds like gunshots, but it's difficult to tell over the phone. We've been compromised. Maxim and his men have us pinned down outside the bar. I called for backup, but it's going to be a good 10 minutes until they arrive. Don't let him get the book, I growl, jumping away from Monroe and pressing the phone harder into my ear. I'll be there in a minute. It might not be soon enough, Kiro replies, and I hear the whiz of a bullet flying past him. Stay there and don't die. I'll be there soon, I say before hanging up.
Chapter 25. Monroe. I already hated Maxim, but now I hate him even more for constantly taking Zane away from me. Everything I ever wanted could possibly slip through my fingers today because of that asshole. I thought he was in the hospital, I say, running after Zane as he flies down the hallway. Zane doesn't miss a step as he speaks. He probably checked out early, but I don't know how he managed to find Kiro and Andre at the bar. Maybe his guys followed us there. They're super keen on getting to you, but that's how Maxim is. He wants everything I have, even if he doesn't know why I have it. But if they have the book, aren't they going to know everything that's going on? I ask, panting a little as I try to keep up with him. They won't have a chance, he replies. I'll blow Maxim's brains out in the middle of the street if I have to. This ends today. His determination is admirable, but the idea of him getting shot and killed terrifies me. All I wanted was to hear him say that he loves me, but I might never get to hear those beautiful words if he's killed in a shootout. I don't want him to go. I can't stand the thought of losing him. I grab his arm. Please, Zane. You have a baby to think about. Let someone else take care of this. He looks at me, his eyes softening. He places a hand on my cheek. Don't worry. I have no plans on dying, but I have to do this. Kiro needs me, Andre needs me, and we need to make sure Maxim doesn't take the book. He doesn't even know what's in it, I say, grabbing at his shirt as he puts his shoes on. Don't go. Stay here with me. He sighs, standing up straight again. If I don't go, Kiro and Andre will die. We can't risk anyone else seeing what's in the book either. This isn't something I'm willing to compromise on. I'd prefer you to stay at the house. This is going to get dangerous. No, I say, putting my foot down. We're in this together. No time to argue, he replies, opening the front door and tossing his jacket over his shoulder. I have to go. He walks out of the house, but I'm hot on his heels, unwilling to let him leave so easily. He'll have to physically prevent me from getting into his car if he wants to keep me from joining him. I can't be alone again. Not right now when the entire world feels like it's crashing down around me. If Zane dies, it'll all be gone. All the good things, all the joy, all the hope, and everything that makes me smile. He opens the car door, and I reach for the handle to the other side before he can lock it again. I pull open the door and dive in as he slides into the driver's seat. Get out, he says, reaching for my arm. I slap his hand away. Don't you dare try that with me. I'm going with you. I can't be alone again. Not today. He narrows his eyes. Fine. You can come with me, but you're staying in the car with the doors locked. It's armored, so there shouldn't be any issue unless they're launching rockets down the street or something. I nod, buckling my seatbelt. I can do that, but you need to give me a gun, at least. He sighs, reaching into his jacket and pulling out a pistol. He puts it on my lap, and the weight is surprising to me. It's a lot heavier than I thought it would be, and I immediately feel uncomfortable with it sitting so close to my belly. I pluck it off my lap, holding it awkwardly in both hands and making sure not to touch the trigger as Zane speeds off. He's driving faster than I've ever traveled before, tearing through streets and weaving through traffic like it's an arcade game. My nausea comes back tenfold. My body feels like it's spinning even though the car is stationary, and the only thing keeping me from throwing up is the thought of Zane turning back around and dropping me off at home. We can't waste any more time with the lives that are on the line. We have to get to the bar as soon as possible. Zane takes a sharp left, and my body shifts against the door. I almost drop the gun because of how sweaty my hands are. Jesus, I hope I don't end up having to use this thing. Zane's grip tightens on the steering wheel, his jaw clenched in determination. I can see the veins in his hands popping as he maneuvers the car through traffic toward the bar. He glances over at me briefly, his expression softening just a bit before hardening again. Are you okay? He asks, his voice strained with tension. Yeah, I lie, gripping the gun tighter. I've never been to a shootout before. I try to laugh, but it sounds more like a terrified squeak. Don't worry, he says, his eyes back on the road. We'll get through this. Like I said, just stay in the car. The drive feels like an eternity, but finally we screech to a halt a few blocks away from the bar. Zane parks the car in an alley, hidden from the road. He turns to me, his eyes intense. This is it, he says. Stay here. Keep the doors locked, And if anything happens, you drive away as fast as you can. I'll leave you the keys. Got it? I nod, my heart pounding so hard I can hear it inside my head. Got it. He leans over, pressing a quick kiss to my forehead. I love you, he whispers. Before I can respond, he's out of the car, running down the alley and disappearing around the corner. I watch him go, my heart stuck in my throat. I put the gun down on the seat and shift over to where Zane's body sat behind the wheel. It's warm on his seat, like he's holding me from behind, and I can smell his sweat and cologne. Suddenly, I hear shouting and the unmistakable sound of gunfire, and my stomach sinks. It sounds like it's getting closer, and then suddenly, I see Zane sprinting down the alley back toward the car. He's yelling, but I can't make out the words he's saying. I lean over and hit the switch to unlock the doors as I see Kiro running close behind him with the blue book with gold lettering clutching in his hands like it's the Holy Grail. It's a little funny to me that they're all so obsessed with that book now, but I'm not going to laugh when Zane starts raking in millions from the stock market. I use my foot to kick open the door as I slide into the back seat so that Zane and Kiro can sit in the front. I don't see any sign of Andrew though, which makes me worried. He seemed like a nice guy. Zane jumps into the car, immediately starting the engine and pulling out before his door is even closed. Kiro jumps in, slamming the door shut just as a couple of men round the corner of the alley. Hold tight, Zane shouts as he slams on the gas, flying toward the group of men. They barely have time to get any shots off before they're knocked in all directions like bowling pins as Zane smashes through them. Kiro lets out a holler, grinning wildly as we slide out into the road. What happened? I ask, looking out the back window as we race down the street. Zane slows down a little, laughing with Kiro. Well, the cops showed up, so that's one thing. I don't think Maxim expected a three-way shootout, but that's what he got. More like 2 against 1, Kiro says, running his fingers through his hair. My God, it was glorious. I saw like 6 or 7 of his guys get hit. We didn't lose a single one. I place my hand over my heart. Thank goodness. So Andrew's okay? Where is he? He took off in my car, Kiro says. I decided to go with Zane, but I'll tell you, it was close. They almost had us back there. It wasn't that close, Zane says quickly, trying to cover up the severity of their situation. We were fine up until we decided to leave, and the run here wasn't far. They're not very good shots either. Bad aim all around. I shake my head, but I'm just happy that everyone is okay. Did Maxim make it out? I ask, curious about the police situation. Is he going to end up in prison again? I know Zane didn't want that, but I wouldn't mind if they locked him up. We wouldn't have to deal with him for a long time, potentially forever. Maxim has a knack for wriggling out of situation he shouldn't be able to. It's his only true talent, Zane says, taking a turn down another road and slowing even further. He took off when the police came. I'm not really surprised. He's probably on probation, and if they find him in any kind of sketchy situation, they're liable to put him back in jail. You think they'll come after him then? I ask. Zane's eyes flash at me in the rearview mirror. If they did, he wouldn't stand much of a chance of getting away. He was limping like crazy, hobbling along half the speed he should have been going. That stab wound is definitely not properly healed. I'll bet he rushed out of the hospital to get to us. The real question is, how did he know we'd be at the bar? Kiro says, tapping the blue book against his forehead. You think he knows about the book too? Impossible, Zane replies. Unless he's been in my house and put cameras all over my library, he doesn't know about the book. I suspect what he really wants is Monroe, since she's with me now. If he tries anything, I'll shoot him, I say, holding up the gun Zane gave me. Whoa, who gave her that? Kiro exclaims, throwing his hands up and letting out a laugh. I wouldn't mess around. She might actually shoot you, Zane says, smirking at me in the mirror. I give him a playful glare, though inside, I'm still shaken by everything that's happened. The reality of our situation is just starting to hit me. Zane was so close to death, but he acts like it's just another regular day for him. I wonder how many times something like this has happened. Kiro looks back at me, a reassuring smile on his face. Don't worry, Monroe. We've been through worse. Maxim's got nothing on us. It's like he can read my mind. I nod, though my anxiety doesn't ease. The weight of the gun in my hands feels oppressive, so I put it back down on the seat beside me. Zane takes another sharp turn, and we find ourselves in a quieter part of town. The adrenaline starts to wear off, and exhaustion sets in. We'll lay low at the safe house for now, Zane says, pulling into a secluded driveway. You have another house? I ask, looking out the window. I have several, he replies as a gate rolls shut behind us.
Chapter 26. Zane. Monroe hasn't said anything about the words I spoke to her before I left the car. I meant those words with every ounce of my being, but I understand that there are other things weighing on her right now. I'm not going to bring anything personal up until she's ready. Right now she needs to sleep. Her face is pale, and she drags her body into the house like a tired puppeteer. I watch her settle on the couch, her eyelids fluttering shut as exhaustion claims her. Every protective instinct I have screams at me to keep her safe, to make sure she never has to go through anything like this again. But I know that's not the world we live in. Not with Maxim out there, always lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. Kiro joins me in the kitchen, his expression a mix of relief and tension. What's the plan, Zane? I glance towards the living room where Monroe is sleeping. We need to make sure none of Maxim's men have the opportunity to strike again. Move some of the guards to the safe house, and get in contact with Andrea again. We need better intel this time. We were too late to bust Maxim at the hospital. Kiro nods, already moving to check the locks and windows. And the book. Should I start doing business? Yes, I reply. This house has a computer. Connect to a VPN and go ahead and start moving money into the brokerage accounts. Stagger the buys, different stocks in different accounts. They need to all look like they belong to unrelated people. Kiro opens the fridge, pulling out a bottle of water and handing it to me. You look a bit shaken. I crack the seal and take a sip. I'll be honest with you, Kiro, I am. The stakes are pretty damn high right now, Monroe. She's pregnant. Kiro looks at me with his eyebrows all the way up to his hairline. Seriously, that's pretty big news. Huge, but don't tell anyone yet. I don't want any announcements until after the wedding. He chuckles. Going the traditional route, I see. If I can convince her, I say, taking another sip of water. I didn't realize how thirsty I was until now. I'd like her to settle in a bit, and I think we should take out Maxim first. We're so close that I can taste it. Kiro nods, but doesn't say anything, and I return to my water. I've already finished half the bottle. The house feels too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you anxious. I can't stand still, not with so much at stake. I step outside, needing the fresh air to clear my head. The air is cool, a gentle breeze rustling the trees. I light a cigar, the familiar sting of smoke in my nostrils grounding me. My thoughts drift back to Monroe. The way she looked at me when I told her I was in love with her. There was fear, yes, but also a glimmer of hope. A future, something to fight for. I take a few puffs from my cigar, exhaling slowly. I'll protect that future with everything I have. She put her trust in me, and now I must do the right thing and make sure she's taken care of for life. It doesn't just mean money. It means love and support, unconditional and pure. That's what a woman like her deserves. I take another puff from my cigar, watching the smoke float through the air and get swept away by the wind. It reminds me of that song. It was the first American song I remember hearing. All we are is dust in the wind. I finish my cigar before going back inside. It's oddly quiet, but I also feel calmer now. The buzz of the shootout has faded the back of my head, and it's been replaced by the urge to sleep. It's not even that late, but seeing Monroe curled up on the couch makes me want to join her. I stand over her in the living room, admiring the soft curves of her body and the way her eyelids flutter when the air moves across her face. I don't want to disturb her sleep, but she deserves a more comfortable bed. Carefully, I push my arms under her body, scooping her up and holding her against my chest. She stirs, but she remains asleep as I carry her out of the living room. There are 2 bedrooms upstairs and an office situated at the end of the hallway. I choose the bedroom furthest from the office. I can hear Kiro in there, typing wilding on the keyboard as he puts in buy orders for our stock picks. I put Monroe down on the bed and pull the blankets over her body, tucking her in and making sure she's nice and warm. I stand there for a few moments, watching her sleep, feeling the warmth in my chest that comes from being close to her. I smile, and the world feels like a better place. Or maybe I'm just a better person now. She makes me a better man, and I know that no matter what happens, she'll always have my heart. I want to sleep with her, but I leave the bedroom, joining Kiro in the office to check how things are going. How's the information? Incredible, he says, clicking the buy button under another stock. This is going to be explosive. A lot of these tips expire in a few days. We're going to know how good the data is very soon. I think Tima is going to be pretty happy. Yes, he'll get his cut, I say, looking at the computer screen. All the numbers are starting to blur, and I don't really understand what I'm looking at. We should make millions, if not billions, from this, Kiro says, unable to hide the excitement in his voice. Somehow it means nothing to me. The only thing I can think about is my future with Monroe. Never before have I been so distracted by another person that I don't even care about business. There are a lot of people who depend on me, including Kiro, so I can't tap out now though. I have to see this through, even if it means trudging through more hardship for the next few weeks. We need to stay here. Then, I say, rubbing the back of my neck. Just lay low and let the money come in before we make our next move on Maxim. If we have billions at our disposal, we shouldn't have any issue taking him down. We'll be fine. We're not sitting ducks, Kiro assures me, continuing to move money into various brokerage accounts. This place is as secure as they come, and much more unassuming than your mansion. Maxim won't be able to find us. I lean against the door frame. That's what we thought last time, but somehow he managed to follow us all the way to the bar. We should be careful. Kiro is distracted by the computer, and I'm a bit annoyed at him. Maybe it's the lack of sleep, but it feels like nobody cares about their safety and it's pissing me off. Was I this way before I met Monroe? Come to think of it, I was. I almost got killed barging into her house the day that we lost the flash drive. I'm going to rest, I say, stepping out of the office. Sleep well, Kiro replies, not bothering to turn around. I sigh, closing the door behind me. Something about all this doesn't feel right. I should be happy that we're getting everything we wanted from the flash drive. I should be thrilled that things are finally going my way, and that Maxim's days are numbered. But there's something weighing on my mind, and I can't shake it. Something I need to hear from Monroe. I go into the bedroom, taking a moment to remove my clothes before sliding into bed next to Monroe. She doesn't move when I pull her closer, her body curled tightly. She's still fast asleep, her breath slow and steady against my chest. I hold her close, and my body begins to relax. It's like she's able to absorb my stress, wicking it away and tossing it over her shoulder like it's a ball of crumpled paper. I kiss the top of her head, and she stirs, snuggling deeper into the blankets. I smile, and my eyelids grow heavy. I let sleep claim me, holding on to the warmth of her body against mine.
Chapter 27. Monroe. I hear a gunshot, then another, and my eyes fly open. I sit up just as a black figure charges toward me from the corner of the room. I scream, but nothing comes out. My lungs are empty, and I'm sinking deep into the bed. I'm being swallowed whole. I gasp, blinking my eyes as I sit up for a second time, sun streaming through the window to my right. I look toward the corner of the room, but there's nobody there. I put my hand on my chest and let out a deep sigh. It was just a dream, but it felt so real. If Maxim doesn't find us and kill me, my imagination might just do it for him. Zane rips the sheets off his body, sitting up with me with wide eyes. "What is it?" he asks, his voice hoarse from sleep. "Relax," I say, placing my hand on his sweaty chest. "It's nothing, just a bad dream." He sighs, falling backward onto the bed. "I'm stressed beyond belief," he mutters. "You're the only one I can tell." "You don't even have to tell me," I say, lying back next to him. "I can feel it." He rolls over on his side, his eyes focused on me. It feels like he's seeing right through me. "What's wrong?" I ask. "You haven't said anything," he replies. "You haven't said a word about what happened yesterday." I laugh. "Well, it's not every day you get involved in a shootout. You're a Bratva boss. This is the world you live in, but for me it's a lot to process. I hope you can understand that." He turns back over and stares at the ceiling. "Of course I understand, but that's not really what I'm talking about. Do you remember the conversation we had in the car before I left? Well, it wasn't really a conversation. It was more of a thing I said to you." My cheeks grow warm, and I roll onto my back as well, not wanting him to see my flushed face. I don't know why he has such an effect on me, but it hasn't gotten any less intense since the day I met him. If anything, the butterflies in my stomach flutter harder when I see him now, and my heart beats a bit faster. "You know, you can't just say those words to me so casually," I reply. "There was so much going on yesterday. I figure you didn't want to die without seeing how it felt to say, but I take that kind of thing very seriously." "As do I," he says, his voice deep and confident. His hand finds mine, and I know he's looking at me. I just can't make eye contact with him yet. "You really do have to mean it," I say, my voice so soft it's barely a whisper. "Because if you break my heart, I'm never going to forgive you." He chuckles, pulling me on top of him. I wouldn't dare. I still can't look at him, so I close my eyes, letting the moment wash over me. His scent fills my lungs, and his heat seeps into my body. It's hard for me to believe that this is real. Everything feels so crazy. He kisses the top of my head, and the butterflies in my belly start to flutter. I understand, but that's life. It's always going to be a bit crazy, and the only thing you can do is enjoy the good times. That's why you have to tell me how you feel, so I know where I stand. "I love you," I whisper, feeling the weight of the world lift off my shoulders. I finally let the truth pour out, and the relief is so immense that tears rush to my eyes. "You're not crying because of me, are you?" Zane asks, his fingers running down the side of my cheek. I laugh a little. "I'm crying because I love you so much it hurts." "I love you too, Monroe," he says, his voice smooth and soothing. "It's all I need right now. He's everything to me, and it's as incredible as it is terrifying." He puts his hands on my waist and gently pushes me onto my side. His body is flush against mine, and his bulge is pressed against my belly. "I thought you'd be tired," I say, glancing down between our bodies. "How could I ever be tired of you?" he replies, leaning in and capturing my lips with his. "But we should shower and get ready for breakfast. I think Kiro is waiting for us to get out of bed." "How do you know?" I ask, stretching out my limbs. "I can hear him moving around the house," he says, sliding out of bed and walking naked toward the bathroom. I can't help but watch him, admiring his tight ass and muscular thighs. It's impossible for me not to follow him to the shower and join him under the steaming hot water. We take our time cleaning each other, our hands exploring every inch of skin. I've never felt more intimate with another person, and the way Zane looks at me makes me feel like I'm the most beautiful woman in the world. When we finally emerge from the shower, the air in the house feels different. I can sense the change between Zane and I, the way we've crossed a line into something deeper and more meaningful. We're bonded now, connected in a way that's impossible to describe. We dress quickly and go downstairs to the kitchen, where Kiro is busy making pancakes. "Good morning," he says, smiling as we enter. "Breakfast is almost ready." "You're in an awfully good mood," Zane says, grabbing a coffee cup from the cupboard. "What made you decide to play house?" Kiro chuckles, flipping a pancake. "I figured you'd be hungry, and I wanted to celebrate the big win." Zane raises his eyebrows. "The big win? Are you talking about the book?" "I am," Kiro replies with a grin. "The stock tips are already paying off. We're up a few $1,000,000 so far." "Surely that can't be legal," I say without thinking. Kiro and Zane both give me a funny look. I laugh. Sorry, I'm still waking up.
Chapter 28. Zane. Since we're stuck here for a while, I'd like to know more about the man I'm having a child with, Monroe says as she joins me out by the pool. I lower my sunglasses, watching her hips swing in a bright red bikini as she walks toward me. I might not be able to talk much when I'm drooling over her like this. How is it that she can be so beautiful without even having to try? I put my hands behind my head, leaning back on my recliner as she sits on the one to my left. What do you want to know? I don't know, actually, she says with a laugh. But I feel like we don't really know much about each other's pasts. What was it like for you growing up? Oh God, I mutter, pinching the bridge of my nose. I feel like this isn't the time to get into this. Why not? It's the perfect time, she insists. Okay, but you go first, I say, unwilling to share my troubled childhood before she shares hers. It can't be nearly as bad. I had a nice childhood, she says, and I can hear the smile in her voice. A lot of nice summers in that house. You know, the one that burned down. Maxim will pay for that, I growl, feeling a surge of heat in my chest. Monroe reaches out and places a cool hand on my arm. Relax, baby. Let's not get into that right now. I'm trying to treat our little rendezvous like a mini vacation. I exhale my anger, settling back into my recliner. Okay, go ahead. Thank you. I was just saying that I grew up in that house, which is why I stayed there after my parents died. It was all I had left of them, aside from the memories. I'm sorry, I say, feeling a pain in my soul that I recognize as empathy. It's been a while since I felt anything like it. It's okay. I think I was clinging to it for too long, unable to fully let go. I actually feel better now that it's gone, even though that's never what I wanted. I guess the universe was telling me it was time to move on. I nod. My parents died in a house fire, but I already mentioned that. We're not so different. A drunk driver killed mine, she says. Killed himself in the process, so there was really nobody to be mad at after that. I was just sad for a long time, unable to let go. I was living life on autopilot until one of your guys dropped off that package at my house. Wasn't one of my guys, I say, waving my hand. Tima made the mistake, but I'm glad he did. I'm sorry about your parents, and about the house. I wish I could do something to bring them back, but I'm just a man, as much as I'd like to be something greater. She hits me in the arm. You are greater, Zane. You're the most incredible man I've met, so don't say that. I rub my arm, but secretly I love it when she touches me, even if it hurts. I want her all over me every day and night for the rest of my life, and I'm not even scared of it anymore. I'm in love. How did you become the man you are? She asks, her tone shifting to a sweeter one. I'd like to know. Did you grow up in Russia? Somewhat. Half in Russia, half in the United States, I reply, thinking back to the cold winters that ultimately brought my family here. The weather was the main factor, but my father used to talk about money like he cared about such things. In reality, he didn't mind being poor, and my mother was always telling me that love mattered more than anything. Do you believe that? She asks. I sit up, adjusting my sunglasses before looking at her. She's the very definition of love, and I can't imagine ever giving her up. I was ready to ditch the insider stock information and risk losing Tima as a business partner just to keep her. Yes, I say slowly. I see what she was saying now, but I didn't when I was younger. Love matters more than anything. Her lips curl up in a smile, and I swear she could run the world with it. I agree, she says. Our love is the most important thing to me. We need it if we're to raise the baby right. I rub the tips of my fingers against my forehead. I will warn you, if the baby is anything like me when I was young, they're going to be a wild child. She laughs, pushing her hair behind her ear. Now I have to know. I was just trouble from day one. Stealing, breaking into places, getting into fights. I couldn't control myself, and neither could my parents, I explain with a shrug. I'm not surprised, honestly. How else would you end up being a Bratva boss? I chuckle. There are many ways into the industry, but for me, it was a matter of deciding I was sick of being broke, and especially once my parents died, I saw no reason to be a decent human being anymore. There was no love left. It was all about money. I take a breath, then add, that was until I met you. When I realized how I felt and what I would do to keep you, I knew I needed to become a better man. I think the same thing happened to me, though, she says. I used to have goals, dreams, and then my parents died, and I just gave up on them and everything else. You changed me for the better too, and I know it sounds crazy, but I don't care. I'm in love with you, and I'd follow you anywhere. Good, I say, grabbing her arm. Because I'm not letting you out of my sight. She laughs, and I pull her onto my lap, her body warm against mine. The sun beats down on us, but I love the way it feels. It's been so long since I was able to lay back and enjoy what nature has to offer. It's so much more satisfying than numbers on a screen. Sure, money is nice, but as they say, the best things in life are free. Can I ask you something? Monroe says, wrapping her arms around my neck. Of course, I reply. When you said you wanted to marry me, was it just a joke? She asks, and I can hear the fear in her voice. It's the sound of a woman who is secretly terrified that I won't stick with her through her pregnancy, the sound of a woman who has been let down by men in the past. But I'm not going to let her down. Not now, and not ever. I reach up and stroke her cheek, gazing into her beautiful brown eyes. It wasn't a joke, and I meant every word. I want you to be my bride before you have our child. She gasps, grabbing my hand and pulling it from her cheek. But that's so soon. Are you sure? Never been more sure of anything in my life, I reply. But you'll have to wait until I'm ready to propose. A beautiful woman like you deserves a beautiful ring, don't you think? She laughs. Zane, you know you don't have to give me anything crazy. I haven't even said I'll marry you yet. Well, I haven't asked, I reply with a wink. I know by now that she's in love with me, and regardless of what happens, I'm never going to let her go. She'll give in eventually, and when the time is right, I'm going to drop to one knee and make her my wife. She sighs, but a smile spreads across her face. I love you, Zane, she says, pressing her lips to mine. I love you, Monroe, I whisper.
Chapter 29. Monroe. The more time I spend with Zane, the more I realize that he's not the ruthless man I thought him to be in the beginning. Once you start digging, it turns out he has a heart of gold and a love like nobody else. He's a ray of sunshine when the clouds refuse to budge, and when he makes love to me, I feel like everything is perfect. Except I know it's not perfect. There's a looming cloud that won't go away, the promise of rain on the horizon. It feels like it's getting closer, but it's difficult to tell. We've been holding back and waiting to cash out some of the stock market money to use on hunting down Maxim. I wouldn't be surprised if he's dead already, Zane says over another morning coffee that I'm not allowed to drink. No caffeine at all during the pregnancy, and no wine either. I think that's the worst part, even more so than the morning sickness. You think Maxim is dead? I ask, surprised by his theory. Zane shrugs, taking a sip from his mug. I'm envious that he gets to enjoy it. That stab wound didn't heal properly, and we've had eyes on every hospital in the city. He hasn't returned. Maybe that's a sign that he's not all that sick. I counter. I mean, if he really was in bad condition, he'd go to the hospital, despite the risk. He's reckless, Zane replies, but I see that he's considering what I've just said. Well, maybe not that reckless. You're probably right. He's probably still out there, but he's laying low like we are. What if he took off because he knew he couldn't beat you? Zane chuckles. Oh, he wouldn't do that. He wants to kill me. I'm certain of it. But why? I ask, not really understanding the feud in the first place. Kiro and I are friends, even though we work together, Zane says, taking a sip of his coffee and leaning on the counter. You find connections in this business, despite the brutality of it all. If Maxim went and shot Kiro, I'd want to kill him. I've probably shot enough of Maxim's men to have hit someone important to him. So it's all just back and forth retaliation. That's kind of sad, actually, I say. You'll find that most gangs operate that way. People don't live long in this industry unless they're on top. Then they might have a better chance, like me. I want you to live forever, I say, meaning it with all my heart. He smiles, his eyes showing age as they wrinkle at the corners. I'll live as long as you need me to, darling. I wouldn't dare go dying when you're still in the world. What about after that? I ask, feeling a flutter of butterflies in my stomach. Would you move on and find someone new? Never, he says with the utmost confidence. I'd probably die right after you. You'd kill yourself? I ask, raising an eyebrow. I wouldn't have to. I'd die from a broken heart. I put my hand over my heart, then move it down to my belly. No, you have to stay alive for our baby, I say, although the notion of him dying for me is terribly romantic. Oh, right, he says with a chuckle, but I'd become a monk of sorts. I'd never take another lover. Zane's phone buzzes in his pocket, interrupting our tender moment. He reaches for it, his expression shifting from relaxed to serious in an instant. He answers the phone as he jumps away from the counter. Yes, he says into the phone, his voice dropping an octave, full of authority. I can't hear the other side of the conversation, but Zane's face hardens with every passing second. He nods a few times, says a curt, understood, and hangs up. He places the phone back in his pocket, his jaw tight. Who was it? I ask, my heart beginning to race. Was it about Maxim? Yes, he replies, his voice tight and thin. He's been arrested. I let out a sigh of relief, even though I know Zane is disappointed by the news. It feels a bit selfish to be happy that Zane was denied the kill, but also it might be a little selfish for him to be seeking it out. Maxim ending up behind bars again is a great thing for our future. It means that we can move on without having to experience any more danger. You know, I think it's better this way, I say, stepping up to Zane and placing my hand on his shoulder. Better what way? He asks with a furrowed brow. That Maxim is in jail, I say, studying his confused expression. Why is he looking at me like that? Did he just tell me that Maxim was arrested? Zane sighs, shaking his head as he picks up his coffee. He takes a sip. He was arrested on suspicion of discharging a firearm on a public street. Nothing more. He'll be out on bail within 48 hours. We know where he is, and we're prepared to take him out the moment he walks. My stomach sinks and my legs feel weak. I knew there was a possibility of something like this happening, but knowing that it's going to go down in less than 2 days makes me feel like throwing up. It's not the morning sickness this time. It's downright visceral fear. You don't have to do this, I say, looking into his deep blue eyes. And I won't be, he replies, putting his hand on my waist. There's too much at stake now for me to be directly involved in the hit. I'm going to put Kiro in charge of it and pray that nothing goes wrong. I just want you to understand and appreciate that I'm doing this for you. His words bring me comfort, but there is still the nagging worry in the back of my mind. Even if Kiro does kill Maxim, there will be more. There will always be more, and it will be like this until the day that Zane dies. He said it's a game of retaliation, and I believe that. It's all back and forth. Someone is going to be angry that he had Maxim killed and come after us. Zane seems to read my mind because he places a hand on my cheek and runs his thumb over my skin gently. Hey, look at me, he says softly. Nothing bad is going to come from this. I can promise you that. How? I ask, looking up at him with pleading eyes. I'm going to hire an army. I'll have guards posted outside the house day and night. I'm going to keep you safe, Monroe. Maxim hasn't had time to build any reliable allies, so there's not much of a chance of retaliation. If the hit goes well, and I know it will because Kiro can handle it, then it's smooth sailing from here on out. I hug him, burying my face in his chest. Thank you, baby. I'm scared, but I know you'll do the right thing.
Chapter 30. Zane. The most powerful feeling in the world is being able to call a hit on your worst enemy while playing mini-golf in the backyard with your soon-to-be fiancé. We're still at the safe house, but this place is a lot more fun than the estate. It's made to be entertaining for prolonged periods of time, when you're forced to lay low and wait out conflicts. At first, I really wanted to be a part of the hit. For half my life, I've been at odds with Maxim, and it felt anticlimactic to have someone else pull the trigger on him. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I had graduated to a higher level of Bratva boss, with a wife and a child on the way, and more money in the bank than I could ever possibly spend. Why would I risk it all? Just to have the cheap thrill of killing someone. It took a little bit of time and a lot of reflecting to come to that conclusion, and I might have acted like I already was ready to give up the kill in front of Monroe, but now it's the truth. I'd rather be here with her, hitting a silly little white ball around the yard while Kiro and my men sit in a truck outside of the county jail, waiting for Maxim to be released. Someone was supposed to pick him up, but without him there to call the shots, his weakly organized group isn't terribly effective. In fact, we were able to intercept them and prevent them from reaching the jail in the first place. That's how we knew that Maxim would soon be released. Now, as I tap a golf ball into the hole at the end of a particularly difficult section of the course, the phone in my pocket buzzes. I reach my hand into the pocket of my linen pants, pushing aside another little object that I have saved for the perfect time, and I pull out my phone. Kiro is calling me, and I know exactly why. I answer the phone, putting it on speaker so that Monroe can hear. "We have eyes on the target, sir," Kiro says, his voice clear and confident. Monroe looks at me with wide eyes, her hands clutching the hem of her pink cotton dress. I wink at her, assuring her that everything is going to be okay. She's right here with me, and Kiro is miles away. We're getting all the action through the phone with none of the actual risk. All I have to do is give permission, and Maxim finally drops. "Do it," I say, gripping the phone a little tighter. "Affirmative," Kiro replies, and then the crack of a single shot rings out. I hear it echoing in the confines of the city, the deafening sound bouncing off brick buildings long after the bullet hits its target. It sounds so much real than bullets do in the movies, so much louder and less refined. As the sound fades, it's replaced by dead silence. For a moment, my heart stops, but then I hear Kiro's voice come through again, loud and clear. "It's done, sir. One straight into the head, and we'd better get out of here before the police come." Monroe puts a hand on her stomach and sighs. It's clear that she's relieved, and I understand her completely. I'm also relieved, more than I can express with words. I take her hand, squeezing it and smiling wildly. "Get going. We'll meet at my estate later. I have one more thing I need to do before leaving the safe house." "Affirmative, sir," Kiro says, and I can hear the pride in his voice. I hang up the phone, tucking it back into my pocket. My hand brushes on the other object there, the one I tucked into my pants secretly this morning. Now that Maxim is gone, the time has come to make this move. It's the one thing I feel like I have to do before returning home. Monroe is smiling at me, the sunlight bringing out the golden hues in her eyes. It's an absolutely stunning view, but it pales in comparison to her smile. It's the brightest thing in the world, brighter than the sun. It's the kind of thing that makes you think of the good in life, the kind of thing that makes you feel hope. "How do you feel?" she asks, tilting her head to the side. "Great," I reply. "I'm ready to go home, and I'm glad that Maxim is dead. I feel like I can finally move on with my life. I'm also glad to be here with you, far away from the danger. I like it honestly, and that's not something I used to be able to say. I always lived for the danger because I had nothing else to live for, but now I do. I have you." She blushes. "Always such a romantic." "It's about to get more romantic," I reply, reaching into my pocket and pulling out the secret I've been keeping all day. I'm surprised it hasn't burned a hole in my pocket already. Monroe gasps before I even drop to one knee. I told her this was coming, but I guess she didn't believe it would actually happen until now. I look up at her, holding out a ring that could never possibly do justice to her beauty, and I say the words I've been longing to say. "Monroe, will you marry me?" Her cheeks are flushed, and her eyes are filled with tears, but her smile is so big and bright that the moment doesn't feel quite as intimidating. I just know. And she knows too. We both know what our future looks like. "Yes," she whispers, nodding her head. I take her hand and slip the ring onto her finger. It fits perfectly, and the giant diamond on top shines with rainbow hues like it just rained. To me, this is the rainbow after the storm, the beauty that follows the chaos, and the perfection that was promised since the beginning of the universe. And it fits Monroe perfectly. Chapter 31. Zane. It's been ages since I saw Tima in person, but I think it's appropriate that we meet to reflect on the completion of the insider trading mission and discuss future plans. Plus, I need to tell him to stop sending couriers and start having my guys pick things up from him instead. He doesn't know it, but we almost lost billions of dollars from one simple mistake. The address I've been given is for a bar on the other side of town where Tima operates. If it's anything like the one I run for my organization, we're not all that different. I've always suspected that Tima and I were two people cut from the same cloth. There are just so many similarities. Hell, we might even be cousins, but neither of us would dare touch a DNA testing kit. I go alone because I trust Tima. You have to have some trust when you're playing a game this big. He trusted me by putting money in my hands, and I've trusted him by coming here without my usual security detail. I don't think Monroe liked that idea very much, but she still doesn't understand how we do things around here 100%. We have our own code or ethics, even if it's more about bloodlines and ancient rules than anything an outsider would understand. The security at the door to the bar steps aside when I walk up, already knowing who I am. I'm the man who made Tima rich, and together, I suspect we're going to become unstoppable. I sense a partnership in the near future, more work that could unify our Bratvas into one. Maybe I'm just a dreamer, but Monroe made me into a believer. Anything can happen, and I have proof of that now. As I come into the room, my eyes are immediately drawn to the man standing in front of the bar. He's immense, towering over everyone around him at 6'4", his broad shoulders and muscular frame dominating the space. His body is covered in tattoos, intricate designs that snake down his arms and up his neck. He's a lot heavier inked than he was the last time we met. His eyes catch mine and he smiles, but they're a cold green, a stark contrast to the warmth of his skin. There's an unyielding hardness in them, the kind of gaze that makes you feel exposed, as if he can see right through you. Definitely Bratva. Monroe has said the same thing about my eyes. I think it's all the death you witness. You're able to imagine what someone would look like as a corpse even before they're dead. Tima's dark hair is kept short and neat, like he used to be in the military. I think he may have served at one point in Russia, but I don't recall. When he moves toward me, it's with a purpose and a fluid grace that's surprising for someone his size. Every step he takes is calculated, every gesture deliberate. He carries himself with a confidence that's almost palpable, a confidence that tells everyone in the room that he's important and dangerous. But we both are, our power coming together and neutralizing in a way that would be impossible with anyone lesser. We're two sides of the same coin, brothers in another lifetime. We both recognize and respect each other as equals. When he speaks, his voice is deep with a slight Russian accent. It's a voice that commands attention, that makes people listen. He doesn't need to raise it over the noise of the bar. The quiet intensity of his words is enough to carry them over to me as I walk up to him. Long time, no see. I smile, matching his friendly but serious demeanor. We should get together more often. Celebrate more wins. He chuckles, handing me a glass of scotch. Here, let's drink to that. I take the glass and raise it in the air, and we toast to our continued alliance. It's a great start to what should be an even better afternoon. It's not often two men of this caliber are about to get together and talk business. Tima drinks, and I drink with him. The scotch is excellent, but I already knew it would be by the way the alcohol clung to the glass. It's almost like maple syrup, deep, rich, and sweet. If he ever did want to poison me, this wouldn't be a bad way to go. Thankfully, though, I don't feel my throat closing up and the air leaving my lungs. It's just the gentle burn of alcohol as it warms my throat and stomach. I put my glass down on the bar and exhale slowly. That's good stuff. Only the best for us, right? He says with a knowing grin. Yes, only the best, I say. But it almost wasn't that way. We almost lost the chance to make all this money. Tima's grin turns to a slight frown. Explain. I shrug, like it wasn't a big deal. Your courier delivered the flash drive to the wrong house, and then it was almost intercepted by a man named Maxim. Do you know him? Tima smacks his hand on his forehead. Maxim? He's been harassing my men for weeks. I was just about to put a bullet in his head when I saw on the news he had been shot coming out of the county jail. I push my thumb into my chest. You can thank me later. He was a pest to me as well. Tima laughs, motioning to the bartender to pour us another round of drinks. You are a good man, Zane. You know what you're doing. And I like it. I think we should work together more often. I came to propose an alliance, I reply, cutting straight to the point. We can hash out the details some other time, but tentatively, if you're on board, so am I. Tima pretends to think about it, but I know he's already made up his mind. There's nobody else that could ever match his stride, and we both know it. If we were ever to partner up with anyone, it would be with each other. A smile spreads across his face, slow but certain like a sunrise, and he extends his hand. I take it, feeling the warmth between our palms, and we shake. A deal has been struck. Our futures have been cemented, and our success is inevitable.
Epilogue. Monroe. The soft sound of a piano fills the air, blending perfectly with the gentle rustling of leaves in the late August breeze. I stand at the edge of the garden, my heart pounding with anticipation. Today is the day I will marry Zane, the man who has changed my life in ways I could never have imagined. As the music shifts to a familiar tune, signaling my entrance, I step onto the garden path lined with roses and twinkling lights. Guests turn to look, their faces glowing with happiness. At the end of the aisle, Zane stands waiting, his eyes locked onto mine. He looks devastatingly handsome in his tailored suit, and the love and adoration in his gaze make my heart swell. What were once icy blue omens of danger have transformed into the warmest blue eyes I've ever seen. There's love there, and nothing else. Each step brings me closer to him, to the future we are about to start together. Memories of our journey flash through my mind, the danger, the passion, the countless moments that have brought us to this day. When I finally reach him, Zane takes my hand, his touch reminding me that I never have to go through another day alone. He's here to be my rock, my protector, and one and only love. You look stunning, he whispers, his voice deep and steady. So do you, I reply, squeezing his hand. The officiant begins the ceremony, but all I can focus on is Zane. His eyes hold a promise of love, protection, and a future filled with hope. When it is time for our vows, Zane's deep, steady voice breaks the silence. Monroe, from the moment you entered my life, everything changed. You showed me the power of love, trust, and resilience. I promise to protect you, to cherish you, and to stand by your side through every challenge we face. You are my heart, my soul, and my forever. Tears well up in my eyes as his words wash over me. Taking a deep breath, I begin my vows. Zane, you came into my life like a storm, and nothing has been the same since. You've shown me what it means to be truly loved and protected. I promise to stand by you, to support you, and to love you with all my heart. Together we are unstoppable. You are my strength, my safe haven, and my forever. With the exchange of rings, we seal our promises. When the officiant pronounces us husband and wife, Zane pulls me into his arms, capturing my lips in a kiss that speaks of all the love and passion we share. Applause erupts around us, but in that moment it is just us. We're alone here in the crowd. The reception is a blur of laughter, dancing, and celebration. I don't know many people at the wedding, as they're mostly Bratva associates, but I have fun meeting and talking with them. As the sun sets, casting a golden glow over the garden, Zane leads me to the dance floor for our first dance as husband and wife. We sway to the music, our movements slow and intimate. This feels like a dream, I say, resting my head on his chest. It's our reality now, Zane replies, his arms tightening around me. And it's only the beginning. Soon we'll have to share it with someone new. We share a secret smile, both of us thinking about the life growing inside me. Only Zane, Kiro, and I know about the pregnancy. It's still early, not yet showing, but the knowledge adds an extra layer of warmth to the day. The thought of our baby fills me with a sense of wonder and excitement. I can't wait to tell our child one day about how much love surrounded them even before they were born. Later, as the celebration winds down and the guests begin to leave, Zane and I find ourselves alone in the garden. The twinkling lights cast a magical glow, and the soft hum of cicadas fills the air. Zane takes my hand, leading me to a secluded bench beneath a sky full of stars. "I have something for you," he says, reaching into his pocket. Curious, I watch as he pulls out a small velvet box. My heart skips a beat as he opens it to reveal a delicate necklace with a pendant shaped like a key. "This is something you will take with you wherever you go," he explains, fastening the necklace around my neck, a reminder that no matter what challenges come our way, we'll face them together. "You hold the key to my heart, Monroe." Tears fill my eyes as I touch the pendant, feeling the smoothness of the precious metal. "I love it, Zane. I love you." "I love you too," he says, pulling me into a kiss. We sit there for a while, wrapped in each other's arms, dreaming of the life we will build together. The foundation we have started is already making a difference, and we have so many plans for the future. As the stars twinkle above, I know that our journey is far from over. There will be new adventures, new challenges, and countless moments of joy and love. But no matter what comes our way, we will face it together, united by a bond that nothing can break. And as I look into Zane's eyes, I know that he's the only man I could ever love this way. I place my hand on my belly, and I smile. We're finally getting our happily ever after.
Epilogue. Zane. The sun is setting, casting a warm, golden glow over our backyard. I sit on the grass, my legs stretched out in front of me, watching our son, Leo, toddle around with a determined look on his face. He's a little over a year old now, and every day with him feels like an adventure. "Daddy, look." Leo calls out, his tiny hands gripping a toy car that he's just pushed down the small slope we built for him. "I see, buddy," I reply, smiling as I watch the car roll down the hill and crash into the grass. "You're getting really good at that." Leo beams with pride and claps his hands, laughing like he's having the time of his life. Moments like these are a treasure, a stark contrast to the chaos and danger that used to define my life. Now, my world revolves around this little boy and his mother, Monroe. As I reach out to pull Leo into my lap, I see Monroe stepping out of the house. She's wearing a floral silk dress that shows off her incredible curves. They've only gotten more addicting since she had Leo. Her hair is tied back in a loose ponytail. She's holding something in her hand, and her expression is a mix of excitement and nervousness. Her cheeks are pink, like they always are when there's something important on her mind. It's a dead giveaway. "Hey," I call out, waving her over. "Come join us." Monroe smiles and walks towards us, her eyes shining a beautiful deep brown in the slanted sunlight. She sits down beside me, and Leo runs into her arms. "Is everything okay?" I ask, looking closer at her flushed cheeks and furrowed brow. Monroe takes a deep breath and holds out a small, white stick. It takes me a moment to realize what it is, and when I do, my heart skips a beat. It's a pregnancy test. "Zane," she says softly, her voice trembling slightly. "We're having another baby." For a moment, I'm speechless. Then, a wave of joy and excitement crashes over me. I pull Monroe into my arms, laughing and kissing her. "Are you serious? Another baby?" She nods, her eyes brimming with happy tears. "Yes, another baby." Leo, curious about what's happening, wriggles out of our hug and looks up at me with wide eyes. "Baby?" he asks, pointing at Monroe's belly. "That's right, buddy," I say, picking him up, giving him a squeeze. "You're going to be a big brother." Leo looks at Monroe's belly and then at us, as if trying to process the information. He giggles and claps his hands, clearly excited even if he doesn't fully understand yet. Monroe and I share a look, and in that moment, I feel nothing but pure happiness and love. This is our family, and it just got a little bigger. Leo wriggles free again, running around and squealing with excitement. Monroe and I sit together, watching our son and thinking about our new addition. I hope it's a girl. Maybe that will balance out Leo. "What do you think?" I ask, curious about Monroe's prediction. "Boy or girl?" "Boy, of course," she says with a grin. I laugh. "Another one?" "I'm not sure we can handle that." "You're the big, strong man. You can handle anything," she says, her eyes sparkling with admiration. I take her hand and squeeze it. You're right, but I still think we're having a girl. A year ago, I would have lost my mind over not being able to know something, but what I've learned from being with Monroe is that the mystery is what makes life so amazing. We don't know what gender our next baby will be, or any of the ones that come after it, but we do know that we will love them with all of our hearts, and that Leo will make an excellent brother. We also know that nothing will break our bond, and that we'll be happy just to be together as a family. Nothing else really matters. Not the money, not the power, and not the thrill of a new project at work. With Monroe by my side in our quiet little garden, I feel complete. The end. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Thank you.